Call to order this workshop for annexation, Siloam Springs Board of Directors, May 7, 2024. Roll call.
Blair,
Here.
Smiley,
Here.
Wiles,
Here.
Rissler,
Here.
Allen, not here, Carroll.
Here.
Thank you. So with that, we will just get right into our workshop. And Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Paxton, Community Development Director.
Thank you, Alan, Mayor. Just want to thank everyone for being here, especially the audience members that attended today. This is the annexation presentation. This takes about 25 to 30 minutes to go through. If you have any questions, you can either feel free to, I think everyone, each of the board members has received a packet with an area to take some notes. If you have any questions, feel free to either interrupt me along the way, or we can take those questions at the end, just depending on which is best available for you. So go ahead and get started. This is the annexation workshop for 2024. As a quick overview, this is a board goal. The board goal included to consider using other forms of annexation, such as election, when voluntary annexations may not be feasible. To start with, let's take you back to March the 5th. We had a kickoff board workshop. At that workshop, we discussed why each option was selected with the board of directors. And our goal was to get initial feedback from the board and to answer any questions to get us started moving forward and making an informed decision. Staff at that time provided 3 options. Option A was a limited scope option. It was a smaller area that was focused on land with lower population. Option B was medium scope, and it expanded on option A, but it also had a focus on the transportation network making those connections. Option C was a little bit more familiar with the board. That was previously provided to the board, I believe, about a year ago. That was a larger scope project. It was from the original proposal, mainly on the planning jurisdiction and future growth needs. The board members were provided with a copy of each of the 3 options to allow them time to determine an option that was most appropriate, that they felt was most appropriate. They worked with the city administrator who took the lead in discussions with board members. Meanwhile, staff began to work on public engagement portions of that, and you can see each of the 3 options here on your screen. The city administrator's role in this was to work with the board members to address concerns. Board members had started by providing feedback eliminating option C. After about a month worth of work with Alan, a final concept was based off of the board's feedback to Alan. Meanwhile, staff was working in the background and provided an annexation timeline. Our goal with the timeline was to ensure transparency, provide regular updates, highlight key dates, keep things moving forward, and to help ensure that steps were not missed along the way. We looked at public outreach strategies through this process and moved forward with social media outreach, public notices, websites, postcards to county landowners, regular media releases. We had an interactive town hall meeting on April the 11th. We were invited to be a guest speaker at the Benton County Republican Women's Group on April the 15th, and we held a community roundtable on April the 23rd. Here you can also see a copy of the postcard that was sent to the county landowners to ensure that everyone was invited. And it also had the Scan Me feature, which would have taken them to the most update and current version of the annexation proposal that we had to offer. We moved into the interactive town hall with a concept ready to go. Staff held the interactive town hall meeting to gather feedback and answer questions for the general public. This was only after the postcards were mailed to every property owner in the proposed annexation area. The public notices were also posted on social media and the website. We had also contacted KNWA and the Herald Leader, both of which were present at the meeting. We had 59 attendees present, and we also had each department head the city administrator, and several of the directors attended. The number one question at this meeting was who gets to vote? Many county participants wanted to know if they would have the opportunity to vote on this item. Per state statute, qualified electors of the annexing municipality and of the area to be annexed at the next general election would be the individuals that got to vote. However, it is worth noting that Siloam Springs local government does not control these requirements, and staff recommends anyone that would like to verify to please reach out to your appropriate county election official. We had a push pin mapping, which was part of our interactivity at the interactive town hall. There were 50 participants that participated within that mapping. There were 20 attendees that provided push pins in the city. Of those, about 70% were in favor. There were about 30 attendees that provided push pins in the county, and about 90% were against. It is worth noting that not all attendees were registered voters eligible for voting in the November election. One of the things that we wanted to present to you tonight, directors, was to ensure that every comment that we received gets presented to you. That included the comment cards at the interactive town hall. Some of the participants wanted information regarding things such as population density, how road improvements are handled, and utilities. The participants were given access to each department head to present their questions and to have that discussion. Some of the participants wanted to know what benefits to annexation were to annexation and the differences in taxes. Staff provided printouts and discussion with participants discussing improved transportation networks, responsible growth, and benefits of police, fire, and utility services. You can also see in the top right of this screen that there is a table that was provided in the printout. This provided people with the information to determine their increase in taxation rates. County participants wanted to be a part of the discussion during the process. Landowners were invited to the town hall and were given access to the city administrator and department heads from each department. Some participants expressed a need to support annexation for future planning and growth needs of the city. There were participants that expressed a need to clean up some of the county areas adjacent to the city. Some county participants do not want to be annexed to preserve their county way of life, and also discussed hunting and discharge of firearms. We discussed that with multiple participants. Some county participants were upset that they would likely have to remove old cars and clear rubbish and follow other city laws regarding upkeep of their property. Some county participants were concerned that the annexation would interfere with their agricultural uses. Staff was present to answer questions regarding land use and discuss topics such as agricultural uses and grandfathered uses. It is worth noting that the city of Siloam Springs does have an agricultural zoning option. Things such as hay fields, cattle ranches, and chicken farms would be examples of agricultural uses protected in A1 agricultural by right. There were participants from John Brown University. Several JBU students also attended to ask questions and observe the process as a part of a class discussion. JBU students were given access to discuss these topics with department heads, planning staff, and the city administrator, and to the directors that were present at the meeting. Each department head had one-on-one conversations with members of the participants that were present. Some of those topics included who gets to vote. This election is based on the state law requirements. Other discussion include some pay a $50 service fee for fire services in the county. However, all annexed areas would be covered once in the city limits. Hunting was also discussed. Police and animal control are currently looking at potential ordinance changes regarding this. Discharging of weapons was also discussed, and the department heads present spoke about the ordinance change to allow protection of assets and property that's already in place at this time. There were further discussions regarding utility and services. Some services such as police, fire, and use of the fix-it form for will be immediate after annexation. The significance of the fix-it form is that's where we get the majority of our pothole complaints and different complaints similar to that. However, some items will require long-range planning. Electric buyouts are estimated at approximately $2 million based on negotiations with Carroll Electric. It is worth noting that costs can be more than 3.5 times annual electric usage for Carroll Electric buyouts, plus depreciated costs of equipment. Other things that were discussed include the transportation network. This included discussions to ensure fire and police services would have safe access down roads and streets in these areas. Drainage was also discussed. Maintenance by the city could occur in areas where there are public ways and easements. However, large drainage improvements would be assessed for future needs. Police and fire services were discussed, such as quicker response for police services depending on the call, police presence and patrol in areas that are annexed, and fire costs. The police chief discussed hunting with several participants. Discussions of future ordinances are being held that would be based off of lot sizes. Of the 5.5 mill rate, approximately 0.5 of that goes to fire retirement. Finally, there were sanitation bill questions. Outside of the city, there is a 10% surcharge which would go away for these annexed areas. It is possible that there are low costs for private haulers, but it's more likely that for private trash services, it's an equal cost currently. However, dumpster services are lower for city residents and businesses, and there are quite a few dumpster services in the county, such as along Highway 59 towards Gentry. Moving forward, we started to prepare for the community roundtable. For the meeting, it was attended by 29 individuals, plus 16 roundtable participants. This included 4 citizens of Siloam Springs, 4 citizens of Benton County, 4 public officials, and 4 city staff panelists. For the citizen panelists for the city, Mayor Nation represented City of Siloam Springs residents. There were also 3 residents present: Dr. Steve Beers, Mr. Jeff Stewart, Mr. Dustin Butler. Mr. Ron Holmeyer, Justice of the Peace, was the county representative present. Also, Mr. Jeff Farmer, Mr. Ken Maples, and Mr. Junior McClellan were county residents present as panelists. Additional panelists included Alan Gilbert, City Administrator, Arthur Holbert, Chamber President, Cammie Hevner, Utilities Commissioner, Katie Renard, Planning Commissioner, myself, Chris Paxton, the Director of Community Development, Christina Patriches, the Director of Finance, Phil Stokes, the Director of Electric, and Danny Faring, the Water and Sewer Superintendent. We also had overflow staff present that was available to take questions. When we got into the comments and the concerns at the community roundtable, Mr. Farmer asked about the future Highway 412 expansion. It was discussed as being too early to have those type of conversations because these conversations are about 25 years out, and it is unclear at this time where those routes will be. It's also worth noting that if it were to go north of the city, it would simply just expand those additional uses, and those uses would not change based off on the north end of the city based off of what we currently have proposed. Dr. Beers asked if people could work directly with staff to provide face-to-face service, and I spoke about this, stating that staff was available for people to come in, and that I have an open door policy in the Community Development Department, and that included the affected county participants. Dr. Beers asked if staff could change the boundaries. Staff did inform him that staff was only there to collect information for the board and to make those, that the board would make those determinations. The board can discuss and review the boundaries until a resolution is adopted. But staff was not planning to make additional changes to the boundaries from a staff perspective. Additional changes to the boundaries in its current form, for there to be changes, those would have needed to go through Alan Gilbert, city administrator, and he would communicate with the board members directly one-on-one. The city administrator is the liaison between the staff and the board. Jeff Stewart asked for a commitment from the city regarding Don Hill Road and Oak Crest Road and maintenance and widening. It is noted that these two roads are not included as expanded uses within the annexation area. However, Alan did speak about needing to annex before we can do master planning to do improvements. Alan also discussed how we are working to fix issues in the city and that the proper maintenance would be a part of putting our different policies and different plans in place. I also spoke on this topic a little bit, discussing short-term maintenance versus long-term maintenance for street maintenance. For example, quick fixes can occur for things such as potholes, but larger road reconstruction projects would be considered differently because those would need to be a part of our schedule out plans and would not be immediate after annexation. The chamber president, Arthur Holbert, asked to discuss business taxation impacts regarding the annexation. Our finance director, Christina Patriches, stated that businesses coming into the city would have an additional 2% to their customers on their sales tax. Christina also discussed the 5.5 mils and that 5 of that is for the city and that 0.5 more is for the retired firefighters. She also discussed that a house worth about $300,000, the assessed value is about $32,000, and that at a 5.5 mil rate, it's at about $181 a year. Junior McClellan revisited the topic of taxes and stated that it would increase taxes to 10.6%, raise per household and raise taxes for automobile sales, but Christina discussed that the 5.5 mils would apply the same to personal properties such as automobiles. She also clarified that there is a 2% tax included for purchases for people that make purchases out of their home, for example, off of Amazon. Mr. Farmer asked about options A, B, and C, the original 3 options that were presented to the board. And he wanted to know if the provided annexation concept was the final boundary. I discussed with him that option C was originally removed after discussions between Alan and the board, and that the current concept is a mix of option A and B with some additional changes based off of those conversations that Alan had with board members. Alan also spoke about negative feedback that came from the board regarding option C, and that the current iteration of the map is based off of future growth in the annexation areas as identified. Planning Commissioner Katie Renard felt that it was important to discuss some of the services and service benefits of being a city resident. I began this conversation by stating that some of the residents would be impacted differently because some county participants already enjoy some of the benefits. Also spoke about some of the benefits, including fire services would be automatically covered, police services and patrol included in this area, and better response times in this area. Utility surcharges would be removed, and that individuals can keep their well water and septic unless there's a new build project. Each would be looked at individually for that. Mr. Dustin Butler spoke about why now, with the bypass being 25 years out and most of the northeast portion of the annex being agricultural. The growth in the city is about 2.75% or higher. Since 2020, the house growth rate is over 4%. In January, we likely surpassed 20,000 residents. and development is being built and requires annexation by petition if adjacent to the city. Annexation by election would allow getting the master plan ahead rather than a piece by piece over 20 years. Mr. McClellan did state that he did prefer the piece by piece approach. He also stated that county police services had showed up faster in some cases than city, and in some cases where the police services were called. He also stated that he is okay with paying the $50 a year to have the fire protection services. Arthur also spoke about why now from a standpoint of economic development. He spoke about recent RFIs for large development potentials and how if there's more site-ready opportunities, it can be commercial and industrial looking for the ability to immediately hook up at these locations. Such factors attract businesses and promote jobs. City administrator stated regarding why now that the city is growing and now has over 20,000 residents. The fire service area is growing, and the funding needs to be focused on city needs. With 2 ambulances, there is a need for growing these services. Growth causes growing pains, and we are feeling that as a city. Alan also stated that we need to be strategic in responsible growth into the future. He tried to be strategic in selecting this annexation area for, quote, what we need going into the future, such as areas around future schools. He also discussed that the utility costs are going to increase approximately 20% over the next 4 years, and that growing the utilities for service territories helps control costs. He also spoke about annexation after development and how it's 3.55 times the annual bill to buy out Carroll Electric customers. He said that we can't immediately offer all of the city services, but we will work on street and infrastructure moving forward. Utility Commissioner Cammie Hevner spoke about comparing taxes within the city and that the increments are smaller when looking in comparison to some residents. Dr. Beers also pointed out that Mr. McClellan has a unique perspective regarding being a county business owner regarding taxes. Mr. McClellan said that he collects 7.5% in the county, but if annexed into the city, that would change to 9.5%. He stated that he would have to get a business privilege license. However, I did clarify that a business privilege license is free within the city unless it expires, and then that there would be additional charge. Mr. Stewart discussed increased demand in fire services over the last decade in the city and the need for better streets and areas for navigating their emergency vehicles. He stated that he believes roads in county areas would be better in the city for fire trucks, ambulances, and other emergency services. Relevant. Alan discussed the kayak park and how emergency services have to currently go through the county. Junior asked if the city-owned properties could be outside of the city. I did talk to him about that. The city can own properties in the county, and that some of these county-owned properties by the city are a part of this annexation. Junior also asked how annexing 147 addresses would help lower utilities. I explained that some of the properties, as well as those annexing by petition, are likely to be subdivided and turned into smaller lots. This also includes those projects going through the city development standards. Alan discussed that 147 addresses is not what we're talking about when we're talking about potential growth, and that 20 acres can be split into 100 homes or more, and that this would allow responsible growth. Mr. McClellan believed that the chunk by chunk approach would be better for them, And Alan discussed that the need to take in the full transportation network that would go to these areas is necessary. Ben Rhodes, the senior planner, explained that the increase of expanded on the increased costs of annexation post-development. Christina, the finance director, reiterated that piecemeal annexation promotes higher costs associated with equipment and individual buyouts for the properties. Phil Stokes, the director of electric, stated that the city has industrial rates and commercial rates, and that between these two there is room to explore for agricultural rates. Phil stated that this isn't something that the city currently has because there's not a lot of agricultural uses in the city, but that may change. And Christina reiterated, speaking about the 10% surcharge for county residents. It is worth noting that staff is exploring an agricultural rate, which may be connected to the A1 agricultural zoning designation in the future. Dr. Beers asked about the future of scaling of city infrastructure, such as water and sewer services. I started by explaining that some services will be included with the ordinance for this annexation for services within a 3-year period. Then Denny Faring with the water and sewer superintendent said that current growth is designed for 15 years out. He also spoke of an in-city fee for $15.26 for a meter per month and $29.38 for county customers for the same meter. Phil responded to a request by Planning Commissioner Katie Renard to discuss electricity growth. Phil stated that there is room for growth and that the city is, quote, positioned well. Phil stated that the city has capacity to expand and grow into the annexation area and is also working with Carroll Electric and closely parallels with this annexation boundary. Ken Maples said that he understands that the city needs to grow, but he feels that the code enforcement would come because he grows hay for feed. It is worth noting that an active agricultural use such as hay fields will be zoned appropriately as an A1, and this would be allowed by right. Mr. Maples also discussed that he realizes that it is more difficult for the police and fire regarding the county, but the county residents are against the annexation. He also felt that there should have been more county residents present at the community roundtable, and that he is against annexation. Mr. Farmer spoke about people not having a vote, and that own land but not living on the land and outside of the areas allowed to vote. I did speak about the state law setting who gets to vote and encouraged people to reach out to their county election officials to determine if they could vote on this item. We also held a community survey. There was a form that was created to request feedback from all visitors and residents of the City of Siloam Springs website. It's worth noting this was also linked to the postcards that were sent to each county resident, and if they had scanned the QR code, this was available for them as well. There were 23 submissions, mostly anonymous, which discussed their opinions regarding annexation. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I did provide in the board's packet a full copy of the table that you see on your screen. There were varying topics discussed throughout this survey from different people. You can clearly see that some people provided additional information. Oh, one thing to note on that survey is I did remove names and physical addresses from this portion of it. And if board members would like that, then I'm happy to provide that information at a future date. Other meetings, staff was invited to a Q&A session at a meeting on April 15th at the library with the Benton County Republican Women's Group. The community development director spoke and provided an overview discussing the transportation network, responsible growth, public safety routes, fire and police services, utilities, land use, and street maintenance in general terms. Public input included concerns from participants wanting to verify they would be able to maintain septic and well water. Others wanted to know about street maintenance and upgrades. Participants were given general responses and directed to appropriate staff for further clarification. So what's next? So ultimately, what's next? Tonight, the board, at this workshop, ideally, the board would make a determination on the boundary, and that would move to the Planning Commission, which is scheduled. It is the next step, I believe, on the annexation timeline. I think each board member has a copy of that in front of them. The Planning Commission would then view the item and send it back to the board. At that time, the board would make a determination on a resolution. If that resolution is approved, then staff would prepare an ordinance to meet state guidelines, which will be brought back before the board for 3 separate readings that cannot be combined. Provided that there's no amendments during this workshop, the following map will be presented to the Planning Commission on May 14th. And I am available for any additional questions.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm going to jump into my segment real quick, and then the staff will be available for questions. Please keep in mind, board, that this is a working document. I know, hey, we've had A, B, C. This, to me, with working with staff, again, this is a board goal that people had vision that I've been tasked with, and I understand, and all you leaders here understand, leadership is hard and it's lonely. It's not for the weak. And making decisions like this is, to me, is trying to do what's best for our city in the future. But remember, this is a working document. It can add, you can subtract as you look forward. I was asked a question, well, several questions by people are actually statements saying, why growth? Siloam Springs is a special place. I agree. We want to stay small. How do you stop growth? I don't know. When you live in one of the fastest growing counties in the nation, how do you stop growth? Because we're growing leaps and bounds every day. But why now? Increase revenue and economic opportunities. With this is expansion of boundaries, contributes to the growth in commercial establishments and open to new avenues of generating revenue, thereby facilitating economic progress and development. The process of city annexation can provide various economic benefits for both local government and private businesses. It enables access to larger consumer base, which in turn increases sales opportunities for businesses. The additional land brought into the city's jurisdiction can be utilized for industrial commercial purposes, thus creating more job opportunities. Regardless of city size and geography, all cities experience some development outside their boundaries. It's also an increased tax base, an expanded service provision, a streamlined land use management. Just in the last couple of weeks, my phone blows up off the hook. Just, hey, they're building an RV park on Waukesha. I take calls every day. Why isn't the city doing something about it? On Lawless Road, you know, people were very happy with their larger lots, and then duplexes came in, and at that time, staff did not support the duplexes. Well, they came in, so I get complaints that we allow duplexes to be built on Lawless Road. Today, I found out that, I don't know if it's true yet, but they're also looking at another RV park on Highway 59 just outside our city limits. I get calls about different areas in the city that are outside the city. I want you to annex those. You know, why can't you annex in? Well, a lot of these, a big part of this annexation has been strategic, also being responsible, trying to take care of transportation routes that provide better services for police, fire, and city workers. We also, so this, having a streamlined land use management, that would help us streamline, and you don't want to use the word control, but we would have more say-so in what is being built. I had a meeting with someone today owns a large piece of property, and he can't decide if he wants to sell it. He wants to live here, but he understands if he does sell it, it becomes a subdivision. If we don't annex it, how do we what if they decide to build something that isn't best for the landowners around it? We also would have control over suburbs and neighboring areas, economic opportunities, improved planning and land use, expanded opportunities for economic development. We also know there's drawbacks, higher taxes for annex residents, lack of direct benefit for increased revenue. And a lot of it, I think, comes down from conversation I had, is just the loss of rural character and their identity. They're used to, hey, this is my land. I don't want people telling me what I'm doing on it or how, what's going to be built near it. That's why Chris and staff and I work daily, finding out, hey, we have an agriculture zone that can help you with, with the cattle, your cattle and different things that you're doing on there. If you want to grow hay, there's things that we can help you with. And so those are a couple. And then I was just making notes. The city has spent taxpayer money to provide amenities outside the city limits for years. And I'd like to think that was done because past leaders and current leaders had the vision that we're going to put these amenities and we've spent millions of dollars in taxpayer money all these years because of a potential growth in annexation. So why have a planning area if this isn't our plan? Because county residents can pay their bills for their electric, but how many electric bills will they have to pay for what we have developed and had to build over the years? Spent millions of dollars to develop. We have a 1 mile planning area. The more residents that we have, the lower the increases. Save taxpayer money every year. Again, if we didn't do annexation 3 or 4 years ago, we don't do it today, do we do it 5 or 10 years from now? What will be the expense to the taxpayer in 5 to 10 years? It's not going to get any cheaper than it is today, in my opinion. It could be a lot more expensive. People say, hey, well, we want you to take in this subdivision, take in that subdivision. Staff can answer those questions for you because it's so much more expensive. It's so much more expensive to take in a subdivision that's already developed because then we have to get it up to code and we have to get it to meet the specifics of the city. So it can be very, very expensive. I had conversations today about a subdivision that has some serious issues with its septic system. And there's things out there that I've learned that we can help them with that. But again, if a system is made for 2 people and you have 6 to 8 living in it, that system is not going to hold up. It could take millions of dollars to get that up to standard. And to me, that's not a part of this plan. That could be a separate plan later because this plan is all about being strategic and responsible. I've heard questions, well, I pay my $50 volunteer fire service money. A lot of people need to understand a lot of those, that could increase because it costs a taxpayer hundreds of dollars in fire service. A $50 fire service is voluntary. I know there's one that the city residents pay. I think it's a $90 charge, and that's just for firemen's benefits. So again, the citizens are carrying that bill. Where it costs them hundreds where you can live in the county, and it could be a $50 volunteer service expense. We're looking at a master sewer plan. This is something we will have for 25. We will bring it to you hopefully during budget time to look at where we can give possible future residents and our current residents a plan on what we plan on doing for the future. So in 26, 27, 28, you will know if sewer is coming to you. And that'll go along with our master street plan, our master, we have several plans, anything from drainage to sidewalks. But again, if annexed, that will take away the 10% surcharge. These are some of the things that staff and I are just saying, you know, and I just want to answer that question, why? Why now? Again, things aren't going to get any cheaper, and again, this is something that, you know, we were asked to do. It was put in front of me, and again, it's up to the board to go forward with this if that is your pleasure. Again, hopefully we'll have more conversations, but if this is not something the board wants to do, you know, we will focus on something else. But for the future growth, I think it's needed, and that's not easy to say. But it is. I see it every day. I see the growth coming in. I see the businesses that are wanting to come here. I see jobs. I sat in a CEO roundtable the other day with a lot of the top CEOs of companies and bank presidents, and some of the things they're talking about is housing or things for their kids to do and young adults, you know, in our parks, and we have so much to offer here. But we're going to have to grow to continue that. So again, staff will make itself for questions, comments, and we'll be happy. I'll just open it up for questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Alan. So directors, any comments or questions for our staff?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Chris, this is just a curiosity question, but you had mentioned a couple of times the grandfathering in of properties. If these are annexed, do they come in with no zoning? Do they come in with agricultural zoning? And if they are coming in as something other than that, do the property owners have an opportunity to request a specific zoning?
That is a great question, yes. So what we're planning on doing, and Ben Rhodes, our senior planner, is also here. What we're planning on doing is going through with the annexation, and then separately we will have a zoning item that will provide zoning based off of what the current use is. Typically, in the northeast corner, it's going to be agricultural, so the majority of those would be A1 zoning. We even met with a property owner today that was asking questions about this, and yes, we do plan on working with the property owners that come to us. If the ones that do not come to us, we will do our best in looking at what the property is being used as, and I believe, and I would ask Ben to step in, I believe that the two primary zoning districts will be A1 primarily, and then R2?
R2, R1 or R2.
R1 or R2, which will primarily be the residential areas that are impacted by this would be R1 or R2. The open space areas that are being used, for example, for the hay fields and the cattle fields or the chicken farms would likely come in as A1 unless otherwise requested.
Thank you.
If I can just add something. So the ordinance, that would be the annexation ordinance, we would have A1 as the established zone for 100% of the properties. So they come in initially as A1. And then after that, when we assign the wards and do other business like the new planning area boundary and things that would have to happen because of the annexation being approved by the voters, if that does happen in November, then we can revisit the zoning and apply different zones based off of the land use, like what Chris was saying. But just to be clear, everything comes in initially as A1.
Betsy?
That was one of my questions, so thank you. I know that if somebody is in city limits, but they're touching county, they can go through the process to withdraw from the city and no longer be in city limits. If someone gets annexed in and they are still, if this were to go through, someone gets annexed in and part of their property is touching county, can they still go through that process to withdraw from the city and go back to the county?
It is my understanding if you are annexed into the city by election, the only way to be de-annexed is by election.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Lisa?
In your report here. It says staff is exploring an agricultural rate which may be connected to the A1 agricultural zoning use. Do we know, are we going to try to have that rate defined before we vote, or, because I know that's been a topic of conversation for a while now.
It has.
And yeah, I was,
And I won't speak too far out of turn. I know that's in early conversations. We're looking at, there's certain limitations to what we're allowed to do. And I won't speak a lot for Phil's department, but I do believe that we have to look at what we're allowed to do and how we can attach that to a zoning, if we could attach that to a zoning. There's a lot of little moving pieces that we have to make sure that we're in compliance with what we are allowed to do. So once we get to that point, we'll have more staff meetings, and what we'll try to do is, in the future, we'll get with Alan and try to bring something to the board for an early review before we ever make any action. As far as before the annexation, it's probably going to take, I'm just being realistic about it, it'll probably take a little bit longer than that, just to make sure that we're complying with all of the requirements.
Right, that's a great question, Ms. Lisa, because one of the things I want people to understand, the concerns of the county residents mean something to us. We want to be able to answer these questions. We want them to continue the lifestyle that they're used to living, and if that's grandfathering or finding an agriculture zone or a senior discount, we're exploring all those opportunities, because I don't want this to be a terrible thing. And if I was in their seat, I'd probably feel the same way they do. I understand. But again, we're trying to get these answers, and we already have an agriculture rate on the books. And so we're excited for any questions that you may have or continue, but good question.
Am I? Oh, go ahead, you have the floor.
Sorry, you said that you have an agricultural rate on the books?
Not a rate, I'm sorry, I said rate, that's why Chris cut his eyes at me.
I'm like, well,
Agriculture
wait.
zone, I apologize. I'm on a little, I apologize, my voice, I've been sick for about 4 or 5 days, and my voice comes and goes, my mind does too, I think.
What we have is an industrial rate and a commercial rate. And in between those two uses, we have a little bit of room for making some different considerations. And I believe that that's what Phil and Christina and I had conversations about. The missing portion of this is what can we do? So we've got to reach out and figure out what are we allowed to do with those rates, making these type of considerations, because you have to, there's different requirements that we have on what we're allowed to do as far as rates.
So if we have agriculture rates, if we do end up having agriculture rates, do we have any current customers, county customers, that would utilize that same rate structure?
Now, I would deflect that to Phil Stokes.
Bill, need you to come to the mic, please. We are recording this meeting. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Phil.
Phil Stokes, Electric Director. Currently, we have the chicken houses on Airport Road and Highway 59 that of course, on Airport Road, they're not in our, they have, let's see, we looked at Carroll's rate for the houses on 59 and compared those to the Airport Road, and they're really real close. There's some things we can do agriculturally. They have generation that we can use to reduce load if GRD required us to reduce load. There's some things there that they would help us with the city, so we wouldn't have to reduce as much if they put their generators on. So we're looking at that. We have to be careful, because you're looking at where our rates are set up is it's based on your kilowatt hour usage. And so we don't want to cut our throats, so to speak, by reducing revenue to the city greatly, because we might include some options that would hurt the city's overall revenue. And so, but they do have some generation there that we could look at that would be attractive to us.
If we offer that, are we only offering it to agriculture within the city? Or would just be a surcharge or upcharge, like the citizens outside the county citizens that have residential service?
I think if, it's whoever we're serving that would be offered to whoever we
Same.
are serving, yeah. But
With an upcharge?
right now, there's a 10% upcharge outside the city limits. So,
How that would
but
work.
there's a lot of details to be worked out. It's just not cut and dried. It's complicated.
That's why we pay you.
And Director Stokes, while you're up there, if you can explain, like, Chris and I and staff had a meeting with a couple residents in the county today that are in the annex area that get Carroll Electric. Can you kind of explain that right now we're in negotiations, but again, once these negotiations are done, wherever that goes, Carroll Electric would move possibly out of our service territory, and we would have to come in and take that over. If you could kind of explain that to them a little bit, Phil.
Yeah, make it a quick story as I can. Back in 1939, the city and Carroll signed an agreement that established our service territory. Well, during that time, we have both went outside that agreed on territory, more so them than us. And they've took in some subdivisions that should have been served by us. And so we've talked to them about that, and they've agreed that, yes, they have overstepped their bounds, and they were looking at in our negotiation process, they said, you guys can have these customers back, and we won't charge you the 3.5 that the state requires us to pay, but we want you to pay our infrastructure that they put in to serve these customers at a reduced rate, what normally is. And so that's kind of where the negotiations are right now. But also, they're wanting to expand the service territory from what it currently is to include a lot of the area that's annexed in. But they're saying if you agree to serve outside the service territory that was drawn up, that you won't exceed that line for 30 years. And so we've, in the process of developing a proposal and things and trying to work things out. And so that's where we are right now in the negotiations with Carroll. And so it's kind of back and forth. We got a lawyer that's expert in this area, and so he's working with them and us and trying to draw up some plans that we'll be presenting to you. It's not something we'll say this is what we're going to do. It's just we're trying to get details worked out that we think that you guys would be interested in. And so we'll bring it to you once it's getting closer to finalized, and we'll go from there.
And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, and a part of these negotiations, directors, are also is when we finish these negotiations, they want these to be intact for, was it 20 to 30 years?
30 years.
Is it 30 years? So we just, even if we go, if we annex now, they want the assurance that in 10 years, we're not going to come back and try to get more territory. So once the negotiations are done, we won't try to gain any more territory with Carroll for 30 years, but that's the negotiations. So that's why this plan is trying to be strategic, trying to get what we need. I just didn't throw darts and say, hey, well, I want this property. It's just trying to be responsible and strategic about this, because this planning is, a 1 mile radius or a 1 mile radius outside our city limits. And I don't know, once we do this annexation, because to be honest, I can't remember I can't find an annexation that we've done since 1970. So we really haven't done a formal annexation that I can find in the last 30 years. Again, if we do this annexation, will it be another 20, 30 years? Will there slowly be people petition to come in? I think so, as subdivisions are being built.
You said that if we annex, that we can't try to annex for 30 years some of their customers.
That's their,
What if we don't annex? What if this annexation doesn't go through?
you want to tackle that? We will still, the negotiations will still go forward that we will get our service territory, that we still will have to provide service whatever we negotiate. Even if you don't annex, we're still going to have to serve that. We're going to have to spend taxpayer money to go outside our city limits to provide these services.
Will we be presented a zoning map, or is everything coming in as one type of zone or agricultural? I think Lisa was asking that.
It would, Mayor, it would start as A1 during the initial annexation. Then we would follow back up with the changes at a later date. So before of course, just with any rezone, the board would receive the full presentation of what would be changing. We would carry that out. If it's a mass rezone, then we would identify the areas and we would identify people that individually took that out at that time. Okay.
The bottom line is, I think what you're asking is what is it coming in at if the voters pass it, or if the board decides to put it on the ballot? They will all come in as A1.
A1 agricultural.
Yes, A1 agriculture, if they're brought in. And then that changes if it's passed, right?
If
the
it's
voters-
passed, then we would circle back.
Then you would
and
circle
we
back
would-
and change.
We would change the areas that need adjusting. Yes, correct.
Even the businesses would come in as A1?
It's a blanket, whenever you first come in, it would be a blanket A1 zoning designation. So any businesses that would be there would be just grandfathered in, and we would correct the zoning after the annexation.
That's required, right? I mean, whenever you present this or put this on the ballot,
It is typical to have the zoning attached to it.
right?
I'm not sure if the state statute requires the zoning at that time. I've had Ben do the research on this one just recently. So.
Typically, so in Siloam Springs, we put the zoning on annexations. Other cities don't always do that. They just annex and then they come back and require a separate rezoning application. So it really is best city by city, but for one this large, it just doesn't make sense to try to parcel out every single property at the time of the big ordinance. It would be better just to go through all that work, knowing that these are actually going to be coming in, because you remember it's a voter initiative, so we want to know if the voters are for it or not, and then we'll come back with the zoning at that point.
That also establishes a zoning designation. A1 would be one of our least dense zoning districts. So if we had some sort of a proposal without a zoning designation at that time, there would likely be confusion if there was no zoning associated with that. That's why we will recommend that it has a zoning designation at time of annexation.
Anyone else? Directors?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, David?
Chris, I was a little surprised to hear that it was said at the roundtable that the board had decided to combine this down to one map. As you said a minute ago, it combined A and B. Is that what you said? It combined because C was eliminated based on the board meeting. Well, or Alan had said, I don't think this is why, and everybody agreed. C was not the one, right? So it was down to A and B when we left that board meeting. Is this a combination of the two?
Yes, Chris, I'll jump in there on that. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make eye contact with you, but I'm coming around the corner on you.
Well, it would have been helpful to be able to see what was changed from those two that was actually combined, to
And
just
I
get one
can get
map.
that to you, Director. One of the things we did is, it was pretty much unanimous after talking to directors, that C was not something that you wanted to do as a board. So we looked at A, and then directors came by and visited with me, and we sat and talked, and they've made suggestions, and we looked at transportation routes, and again, so I combined and put B, and I can show you exactly what we added and what we took off, if that's what the board wants, and I will be happy to get that to you.
Well, earlier, Alan, you had said this is a board goal. I supported this as a board goal, not this, but annexation. But I supported it as a managed piece by piece of working with owners, and I said that at the time in the board goal workshop, that I wanted us to take where we could work with owners around to expand the city limits. But I was not in favor of a large, huge land grab because it failed so miserably in 2008. And it failed because it went beyond our initial goal of what we wanted to do. I have asked for probably 13, 14 years I asked during the presentation in 2023 why we have not taken in Sycamore Heights, Lawless Road, all of the land that has 3 sides surrounding by city limits. And the reason is, well, they don't want it. The people that live in those areas, they don't want to be in the city limit. Didn't we just get told that 90% of the people that came to the workshop said they did not want to be included in the city? They did not want to see this pass.
85%.
Well, it was a by far large majority. So how can we be saying, well, it doesn't matter what you say, we're going to take you in anyway, but yet you've got neighborhoods that have been getting city services and everything the other neighborhoods have for 50 years. And we're still, after decades, refusing to look at them because staff says they don't want to come in. I'm just stunned that we can have a few board members give input on this and this and this, and I publicly stated this, and it's just on deaf ears. There's just no way we're not going to do it. The Lawless Road and the east of 43, where the property is surrounded on 3 sides, there was a policy under Latham, and I believed under Cameron, that said if any property was surrounded on 3 sides, we annexed it. I brought that up in the workshop where annexation was discussed, and Patterson said, no, that's never been that way. Well, I beg to differ. It was that way under previous administrators. The other property I see that I don't understand why we're ignoring is the southeast part, where we're picking and choosing here and there. But further south of Kenwood is some land. And if we're wanting to square off, which was one of the big reasons that we were told in the beginning, we wanted to square off the lines. We're creating a big additional ziggy-zaggy line down in the bottom southeast corner. I am not against annexation whatsoever. I am for an easier, better way to do it, which is to work with homeowners to take it in. It's just more work and it's more effort, and we have to sell the city as a good reason to come in. I worry that if this vote fails, and I'm, hearing that we're climbing an uphill battle, because a lot of people in 2000, oh, it's going to pass, it's going to pass. No. There were yard signs that said don't vote for, it said vote no on annexation. So, and it was because the people in the county didn't want it, because we overreached. If it fails, and then we attempt to come and take piece by piece, as I believe we should have been doing all along, I think we're going to look foolish to try to be doing that after this thing possibly goes down. And that's a real concern. Where do we go from here if it gets voted down? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Anyone else? Yes, Lisa.
I have a question to, when you say, it's just a question because I don't know, and so this is a learning lesson for me. So we have different types of annexation where we can annex by the vote of the people. We can annex by us and by the board of directors voting to annex the property. And then we can annex by the citizen requesting to be annexed in. If we take it piece by piece, do we have an election every time? Do we have a vote every time? So it would be elected by the board of directors.
Well, it's brought before the board. Yeah.
I was just curious. 'Cause
We just did it at the last meeting, or did we not? for Ms. Orca?
That was voluntary, though.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
volunteered.
no, I'm saying
Yeah.
there is voluntary, but then if you decide to take in a piece like this piece that's circled on 3 ways, it would be brought to the board and it was voted on. If there's something that's practically encircled by city limits, back in the day, it was automatically taken in.
I think what we're talking about is the enclaves, where there were islands inside the city limit, where the city had surrounded on all 4 sides. And state statutes changed some years ago to prohibit new annexations from doing that, from creating an island. We've had this discussion before, I think, about that situation. So I think it was a couple years ago, the board went ahead and took care of all those enclaves. And so there's none left in the city where we surround on all 4 sides. So that method isn't really applicable to us because there's no islands that we have currently.
I'm talking about 3-sided open spaces such as what is in Lawless Road and east of 43. We have approved those housing divisions that have actually created an island of city limits within the county is what we've done. But it was part of the approval for the development that they had to join the city limits.
Ben?
Well, I mean, you are required to, if they're taking in our utilities, like the Oak Brook, for instance, which is going to be another annexation coming for the board, they are required to annex in. But I'm not aware of a policy where if we have it on 3 sides, then it automatically would come in. They would still need to do a voluntary annexation because a 3-sided coverage is not creating an island. An island is only on 4 sides, is how I understand it.
Madam Mayor.
Reed?
Just conferring with the attorney, again, even though it's surrounded by 3 sides, it still have to follow the annexation petition.
I understand that. We have created an island of city limit property north of Lawless Road at the corner of 43 by having the policy we have, but not actually annexing the property south of it. My concern is we're doing all of this annexation, but we've not included any of this that is fairly obvious should be annexed.
And, we've looked at Sycamore and Lawless, and I'm trying, if memory serves me, I don't know if Christina or one of the other department heads remember, I think we looked at Sycamore one time, and I think just to buy everything out was a couple $1 million. It was just putting a steeper price tag, and when we're looking at this, to me, it was just more strategic and responsible with the growth we got. But again, that is the board's choice. If the board decides you want to add something to this, we can add something to it. I said when I began, this is a working document. It can be add, we can subtract.
Reed, you
That
have
is
the
the
floor.
board's
Thank you.
choice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ben, I'm going to possibly put you on the spot, but if you could maybe do some research. But didn't we look at that area there when Garmin was looking to build houses in there? We were trying to annex that area, and we turned it down.
It's correct. There was an annexation petition to take in multiple properties, and that was voted, I don't think it received a second reading, so it died for a lack of a second.
Okay, so it has been looked at. Okay. Madam Mayor, I would like to just make a statement that I do think annexation is something that we need to be looking at as a city, as a community, as we're growing, as we're going to go from 20,000 to 40,000. The reports that I have read show 25 years to be the furthest point out, but more like 20 years when we're going to start seeing things happen as far as the interstate coming through. And I'm as excited as anybody, or the anticipation just to see, is this going north or is it going to go south of us? Because they've already told us that it's not going to be elevated within the city, but it's going to go one direction or the other. And I think that is something we need to be, as a city, preparing for, whether it goes north or south, just being proactive in this. But in all of annexation, whether we do a little or a lot or whatever that number is, I think the monkey thing, it needs to come on us as a city. How are we going to give solid answers? I don't want people going to the polls in November saying, well, I don't know if I'm for or against annexation because I don't have the information. I think it puts something on us, not just to have the information, but to make sure that it's portrayed to the public. And the communication is there, and that people feel like, yeah, I'm voting for something. You may be voting for the defeat of it, but at least you're going for something. You're not just trying to go against something. We're growing. We need to be proactive in it. And I think this is a way that can be done. But if it's going to take 20 years to get sewer out all the way to Davidson Road, I don't think we're doing our job. We need to be able to bring the services to the people in a timely manner, and we're doing that in a master sewer plan that is being developed. But I think we need to go further than just saying we're doing. We need to have something to present, saying this is what's happening, so that people aren't just being led blindly, so to speak, but there's actual something for them to grab a hold of and say, this is the benefit that's going to be for me to be in the city. And that's what I look forward to. But if we as a city cannot give those solid answers or portray them, then I think we need to hold back a little bit.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I believe as a board member that it's our responsibility to look forward to our citizens, to the growth of our community, and to do it in a timely manner, in a safe manner, and a reasonable manner. So we do need to look forward to annexation. We're always going to be growing. We don't want to do it helter-skelter. We want to do it reasonably, and I think we're looking forward to that plan. And I think that we are doing our responsibility. So I would like to see a map of some type, and we do have, of what we are planning to do. We have to have something in hand, I think, to show our citizens that they can understand what we are planning.
Those are great questions or comments. And one of the things, that's why I think the master sewer plan, we don't have one. I think that's why it's so important that, hey, we plan on, and I'm just making numbers up, hey, we plan on doing 2 miles of sewer in 25. We plan on doing 2 miles in 26, and let those areas, let people know, about our master drainage, our master street plan, our, that's a part of our comprehensive plan, and that's why it's so important to keep these plans updated, making sure we're educating. We're not trying to coerce or trying to get a vote. Our job is to educate, and that's what we're going to be doing over the next few months, is trying to educate our citizens on what we're doing, where your taxpayers' money's going, how we're being stewards of your money, and this is what it's costing. But I think a lot of it is educating the people that we represent. I think that's very important. I agree with you, Mr. Reed. It's not, we can't promise some. That's why, we take a big bite and we can't get to them for 25 years. I get that. That's why this plan, in my opinion, has been strategic and just trying, it's rational. It's things that we can do, get to. I don't want to say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we can't do it. That's not how I work.
I guess I just want to say, again, that as a board member, I think it is our responsibility to provide a reasonable growth pattern for our community,
And
whatever that might be.
Yes, ma'am. So one of the things that we look at from a planning perspective is the future land use map. The future land use map was presented during our interactive town hall. And one of the things that we look at moving forward is, yes, these will come in as agricultural uses because that's based off of how the land is currently being used. And likely a lot of this land will stay the same agricultural use for a long time if it's annexed. One of the people I spoke with today said that they probably won't sell within the next 15 years. They may wait, it may be after that. But this type of planning for future land use is more long-term than 15 years. So the future land use map helps us determine what's next for these areas. What are we likely to see along the 59 corridor? What are we likely to see? What is the city's plan along this area? While we may bring it in as an agricultural use, there is an underlying future land use map that can assist with that. And I think that where what Alan was bringing up is absolutely correct. It'll also help us better plan for our future water utilities and different utility rates, or excuse me, different utility lines and where they would go and when they would need to be there. So excellent feedback, and I appreciate the comment.
Thank you, Chris. I think Betsy, Lisa? What
Lisa
have
can
you?
go first.
Okay,
That's
Lisa,
fine.
and
I
then
just
Betsy.
have a question. Don't we have a 3-year period if the annexation passes, that is part of the, don't we have a 3-year period to provide that service?
We have
Isn't there
to-
three?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I can provide you that information. So the state statute states that we have to provide what services the city would provide within a 3-year period.
Within a 3-year period. So they would know if we annexed
correct.
them.
So
They
what
would
we
know
would be,
within 3 years. It doesn't have to be put in within 3 years.
well, what services would it be available within 3 years? We don't have to provide all of the services within 3 years, but we do have to provide what would be available within the first 3 years. For example, police services would be available immediately, fire services immediately. Basic street maintenance would be immediately. So if we do have other things that we could incorporate into that, which would be provided to the entire annexation area within that 3-year period, it would also be listed.
It has to be listed on the ballot, right?
It would be listed on the ordinance that moves forward. I'm not sure if that carries all the way to the ballot item. That should.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Betsy?
So what I hear from citizens of Siloam is concern over, we're not taking care of what we've got, and now we want to take on more. And when I hear plans for the future, like, oh, we'll budget in 26, 27 for sewer, for this or that, for the areas we're annexing, there are people in city limits who've been in city limits for 50, 60 years, and those services still aren't being provided, but we're going to budget for them for people we're just now annexing?
Sure, and we do have a lot of growth to do as a city in our master planning, and I think that that's one of Alan's primary objectives over the next year is just to start working on the early stages of those master plan goals.
Right, we have to decide, again, I've learned a lot about sewer in the last few months. Sewer is based off gravity. If not, we're gonna have to pump it. So again, I wanna take care of the residents here that haven't had it all these years. I don't think it would be fair just to jump out in a new annexed area and do that sewer. That's why we have to sit down, get a plan, bring it before the board. And, because I hear the same things, hey, you're gonna put these new streets, you're gonna do this. I need a new street at Airport Road. Yes, we have things that we have to plan for, and that's what we're doing. I think we're making great strides just this year of getting our budget done a couple months earlier. In January 1, we hit the ground running and getting projects done, and we'll be giving you an update on the projects we're doing, and we'll tell you the next scope of streets we're going to be doing next year, where every year. It's not saying, hey, we're going to do 6 streets and we only get 3 streets done. I want to do attainable goals. And again, if we finish the 3 that we have and we want to add another one to it, I'll bring a budget amendment before you, say, hey, we finished these projects and we want to start a new project. But they have to be attainable. I'm not one to just throw numbers out there just to throw them. And I understand, and getting the people what they need. And I know people have been waiting on it. That's my goal.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David?
Following up on what Betsy said, that's the exact same thing I've heard regarding this topic, annexation, is I've heard nothing positive. I've heard almost the same thing repeated. You're not taking care of what you have in the city limits now, and you're going to be biting off more responsibility. And we are getting to that point of, I mean, with this administrator to take care of that problem. I mean, we are concentrating on infrastructure. In the past, we've had a lot of wants taken care of before needs, and there's needs throughout the whole city of people that have lived here a long time that don't have every city service, as Betsy said, and that should be a priority. So I understand where people are coming from, to be questioning a big, I mean, this is a lot of, well, nearly 2,000 acres. So it is a big, big responsibility that we are taking on. Chris, you mentioned all the ones that would be readily available. Would trash service be, or would we not have the equipment to be able to?
I know in the last ordinance item that we had, which was back in 2008, so it's not going to be that valid, that was one of the listed services that were provided. But I do know that staff is, and we're intending to make a list of what's likely and then sit down with staff and do an assessment so we can have a verification of those items before it hits the ballot.
The only reason I bring it up, it's not one of the utilities that requires infrastructure. You have manpower and you have the trucks. And
That's correct.
so that's why I said, it may not be readily, but it may not be that long either. So
And it may be, and I'm not going to speak for Jason
Yeah,
Davis,
yeah.
but I would say that it's a lot faster to collect
Right.
dumpsters than it
Right.
is to do individual trash
Yeah.
pickups. So those are the types of conversations that we still have to have ahead of the ordinance.
it would be a buildup to get to the point of.
One of the things that I task our department heads with is not just talking about tomorrow. We plan for the future. We plan 5 years from now, 10 years. A lot of the equipment that the board has, approved to buy has really streamlined our process. So things are being done a lot quicker. And that's, we're trying to plan for the future in case this happens, because, annexation has been one of the topics that I tackled since I've been here. So I've been trying to plan for it, and my predecessor was planning for it and trying to get things ready. So that's where we're at. Mayor, we're getting low
Sir.
on time, and
Yep.
anytime, please stop by, see me. Staff will make themselves available for questions. I was happy today when I went to visit Chris, and some people just stopped in and want to talk about annexations. You hear negatives, but staff and I've heard a lot of tremendous positives myself. I talk to a lot of people, but I think a lot of them, it's just the education. People don't understand, and we got to make sure as a staff that we're educating them and explaining the process and what it has, what's involved. But thank you for your time. Thank you, staff.
Thank you, staff, directors, thank you. With that, we will adjourn this workshop. We will reconvene at 6:35 for our regular board meeting. Call to order the Siloam Springs Board of Directors meeting for May 7, 2024. Roll call.
Carroll.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Bristler.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Smiley. Here. Blair.
Here.
At this time, if you will please stand with me as Director Wiles leads us in a word of prayer. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, as we come together at this time on this evening, I just pray your blessings be upon us. Father, help us to discuss and look at each item before us with wisdom and give us vision. Father, I just pray that the decisions that we do make, the discussions that we do have will be just, and Father, above all, that your will be done each and every day as we commit to serving this community. We thank you so much for the blessings that we enjoy and ask that you will continue to be with us. Above all, Father, we thank you for Jesus and our salvation in him, and it is in his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you all for being here. At this time, I would like to ask anyone that has an electronic device, please silence that or turn it off so that we don't have an interruption during our meeting. And thank you very much for that. Next on our agenda is the public input time. And I will ask if there is anyone here that would like to address the board on an item that is not on our regular agenda. Yes, sir, please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Probably won't need 3 minutes, but Arthur Holbert, 20705 Highway 16, Siloam Springs, President of the Chamber of Commerce. I just want to thank everyone for coming out for the Dogwood Festival. We had plenty of weather, plenty of rain, some hail, but it was really a great festival. The city did a great job with many things, with the trash, electricity, just the collaboration we had. I just want to say on behalf of the Chamber, thank the city for a great job, and the rec department, Travis's team, everyone did a great job. So great festival, great time. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you, Arthur. It was a great festival, especially the one day that the sun was shining and it was. Anyone else? If not, is there anyone that would like to address the board on an item that is on our consent agenda? There being none, we will move on to the consent agenda. No, I'm sorry. First, we're going to do our presentations. I almost forgot that. So tonight, we have a special proclamation for a very special lady that has done a tremendous job for the city of Siloam Springs for many years. So at this time, I would ask that Renee Ellis please come forward. Thank you, sir. So, Renee. So, Judy. You know, we love you, and we appreciate the job that you've done for this city for a long time. You've kind of helped keep this board and myself informed and on the right track, and we very much appreciate that. And in recognition of that, with this being the Professional Municipal Clerk Week, I would like to present this proclamation to you. And I would like to read it to you, if that's okay. Okay. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And you have done that well. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk. Now, therefore, I, Judy Nation, Mayor of the City of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, do recognize the week of May 5 through 11, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our city clerk, Renee Ellis, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Thank you.
Yes, speech, speech. Mark is right there. Mark, did you get a photo?
No, I didn't.
Oh, we're gonna have a picture.
Gotta have a picture. Gotta have a picture for the paper. I am smiling.
And with that, we did have another presentation planned, but that was canceled. Alan, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, Brian Minnis with Maxim Golf wanted to come and give you an update, but they got hit with some pretty bad weather up his way. So I just told him we'll put that off and he'll take care of home. And we wish them and others that were hit with that weather, Godspeed, and we'll be praying for them.
Thank you. So we'll look forward to that in the future. So next is our consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes, April 16th, 2024. Airport Division Runway Pavement Rehabilitation, change order 01A for $29,037.72. And that is all that is on our consent agenda. So, directors, I am assuming we do not want to remove that for further discussion. If so, please let me know. If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, we will move to our ordinances.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I just want to give the board a quick update on that. That runway paving was supposed to start this week, but that's been on delay and it won't start till next month. I haven't given you an update on that. They just had some delays of getting some equipment in. We got that worked out, but that will not be this month. That will move to next month, but everyone involved has been notified.
Thank you, Alan. So next is our ordinances, ordinance 24-08. This will be the third reading, amending City Municipal Code, Section 82-41, rates. And I see that Jason is not here tonight. Who is presenting for Jason?
Madam Mayor, Board, Bobby Key, foreman of the City of Siloam Springs Solid Waste, filling in for Jason to hopefully answer any questions y'all have.
So directors, do you have any questions or comments on this particular item?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would just like to ask if there's been any questions, comments, or concerns since the previous reading.
No, there has not.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this ordinance? There is not. So directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-08 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 82, Section 41 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, rates.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2408.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 24-08. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 24-08 is adopted. Next is ordinance 24-09, third reading, amending Municipal Code, Chapter 102, short-term rentals. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. This is the third reading of the ordinance. Staff has not received any additional comments since the last reading of the ordinance. As a reminder, the ordinance changes the approval process for short-term rentals to be through business license only. Planning Commission reviewed the ordinance and recommended approval with the suggested edit. And I believe this was presented to you earlier about the manager's contact being on the business license. We will have that change made in the ordinance, and we are ready for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, comments or questions?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Lisa?
I'd like to say thank you to staff. This was a process, and I appreciate it because this is about community. This is about our citizens, and that's who we represent and that's who we serve, and I really appreciate that they were heard.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to ordinance 24-09? There is not. So directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-09 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Alan?
Ordinance number 24-09, ordinance amending Chapter 102 of the municipal code with respect to short-term rentals.
I have a motion. Go ahead, David. Do you have a motion?
To adopt ordinance 2409.
Thank you.
A second,
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Bristler,
yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 24-09 is adopted. Next is ordinance 24-12, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to PD, 3500 block of East Kenwood Street. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. So I will be presenting both rezoning ordinances at one time. That's ordinance 2412 as well as 2413 on the agenda, as these are occurring on the same property as with the applicant. Can we get the slideshow up, please? Yep. Okay, there we go. So we're seeing this is at the 3500 block of East Kenwood Street. The first request is to rezone the eastern part, as you can see in the hatched area there, and that's 10.61 acres, going from A1 agriculture to PD planned development. And then here you can see the concept, and this should be taken as a concept. So the actual plan may differ slightly from what you're seeing on here, but in concept, this is what the applicant is intending to do. They will be extending Timothy Street all the way down and then cutting off to the side here. That was intentional because we didn't want too many street entrances close together, so it will tie in with a future street. Potentially, it would come in off of here. The proposal is for townhomes. As you can see, those are in the gray boxes with parking out in front and walking paths connecting in between, and plenty of green spaces with a potential detention basin out on the left side there. Here is just the what was provided in the narrative of generally what they're thinking about as far as the townhomes, what they would look like. And as you know, with any type of PD zone, those are the special zones that are unlike all the other ones, where you can customize the standards in the actual approval. So what they're proposing is a little bit of a departure, 2,750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. And that was done intentionally to arrive exactly at 103 units, which is what they want for that development. And that matches about 10.61 acre, or 10.61 units per acre. Yeah, I already mentioned the pictures there, and that's generally what the parking would look like with the garages out front with yards in between. And then the future land use map, these are employed when we're doing a rezoning or annexation. And on the future land use map, we're looking at the neighborhoods 2. And for townhome, which I have circled there, shown as very appropriate in terms of the different levels of appropriateness for, as shown in our future land use map. And then finally, we have the area that's under consideration. This is just the aerial view showing how it lays out and with surrounding land uses. There's plenty of residential in the area, so it's not going to be an unusual land use compared to what we already have going on in the area. And then moving on, as I mentioned, I wanted to present both of these together because they're kind of two hands or two gloves that go together as far as rezoning ordinance. So we're still at this 3,500 block of East Kenwood. This is the next ordinance. This one is 14.89 acres, A1 to R2. And here you see the future land use map showing that area. Again, this is just to the west of the last one I was presenting on, so these are right next to each other. Neighborhoods 2. And there we see the PD and then the R2 section there. In your board packet, there was a conceptual layout of that. Just be aware that that is merely for illustrative purposes. That's not necessarily going to be the final design of what the street would look like. That would have to come back before you as a preliminary plat with a separate approval. So what you're looking at right now is just the approval of the land use piece, the zoning. And with that, Planning Commission did review this, and they have recommended approval of both rezonings and with no needed conditions. And staff is ready for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So we will consider each of these separately, directors. So the first ordinance is 24-12. Do we have any questions concerning that? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 24-12? There being none, then, yes, Reed.
The mayor, I wasn't fast enough, sorry.
That's fine.
Ben, I know it's been looked at, but can you kind of go through how the fire department would be able to utilize their services in these townhomes to be able to get in and out and make sure everybody can be safe in that? Or if we could have someone.
I think I would defer that to the interim fire chief.
Okay, thank you.
Dustin Kendall, interim fire chief. So, can you bring that image back up, the concept? Should be a road to the west of this development that we'll be able to access. We'll be able to get in on both sides, both the frontage and the back side of those townhomes.
Okay, the townhomes is what I'm more concerned with. If we could back that up a little bit.
That's the wrong slide. Oh.
Oh, okay, here we go.
That one right there, yes.
Yeah.
So if you could see, we can make access off of what they're gonna extend Timothy down.
Yeah.
And then we can come straight through the middle of those units, and we'll have access there. And then this little side street that runs to the west, we will have access there as well.
This is a very lay question. Can any of the fire trucks get in there? If there was a fire out there, would you have to get a specific one out there to make those turns, or is it sufficient?
So when this goes through I'm guessing the process for significant development, we'll be able to answer those questions, make sure that the streets are wide enough and that they'll make the turn radius correct.
Okay, I'm just curious, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dustin.
Great question, Reed. It's something I hadn't thought of, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh, anyone else, directors? If not, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-12 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Hunt. I'm sorry, Chrysler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-12, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from A1 to P-D, property located at the 3500 block of East Kenwood Street.
Thank you, sir. So next is ordinance 24-13 that Ben has presented. Directors, questions or comments for that one? There being none, is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments on ordinance 24-13? There being none, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-13 on its first reading by title, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-13, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from A1 to R2, property located at 3500 block of East Kenwood Street.
Thank you, sir. Next is our resolutions. Resolution 23-24, significant development permit for the 2900 block of Waukesha Road, Anchor RV Park. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. So before you is a significant development permit at the 2900 block of Waukesha Road. The request is to construct a 42-space recreational vehicle park within the city's planning area. You can see where that's located just on the map there on the right, just outside the city limits. And here is the review or the site plan that was provided. As the staff report stated, there's really a limited review that we were able to do on this based off it being it's not being zoned. We did apply the C2 standards, and that's per city policy for when you tie into our city utilities. We picked the best zone that matches the proposed land use, not what the city would think would be best in terms of a land use question, but just based off of strictly the proposal. So the proposal is a C2 or type of commercial RV parks in our community that are here are in our C2 zone. So we use that zone strictly just for setbacks and things like that when we were reviewing this. We also are able to apply plans, adopted plans. So in this case, the drainage manual was used, as well as the master street plan and the bike ped plan were all used to review this project. So there is no land use control. That is strictly handled by Benton County Planning Board. And they met on April 17th and approved the project as part of their land use review matrix. And that was one of the conditions of the Planning Commission, that the Planning Board weighed in on this and they would agree that this is the best land use out there. So going into a little bit more about the development itself, there is a single drive entrance that comes in off of Waukesha Road, and these moving on either side are the slots for the different RV units. And then there is an office proposed down around the left corner as you come in that will have parking out in front, and that will be where the office manager would be located, presumably. There will, as you see this kind of darker gray line here, that's not the street, that's actually a walking path that they're required to construct. That's, again, applying the bike plan that we have adopted. So that is included. The master street plan does show a right-of-way needed through the property, but the plan does allow staff to make some variations to slight alignments based off of issues where, the property would not be usable otherwise. And in this case, the shift to the south for that future right-of-way is not significant enough to, move the road entirely from what was originally envisioned on that Master Street Plan map. This was going to be a future east-west collector street of some kind that would eventually be needed on the south side of town, but city has not acquired any right-of-way for that or done any actual design of that street. But it is a line on the map that we have to look at. So I did mention that. Let's see, the elevations here. This is just to give an example of what the one permanent structure would resemble roughly. It won't be exactly like that, but a similar design. So going into some of the conditions. So conditions 3 and 4, as shown in the board memo, have been satisfied regarding the drainage improvements. The city engineer has informed me that those are no longer needed. As the board memo states, the Benton County Planning Board did review and approve the land use, and as such has fulfilled staff's condition number 4. The sole condition remaining is on the drainage easements needed via separate instrument. And the city will coordinate with Benton County to ensure that this is met prior to the county building permit issuance. And with that, staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, comments or questions? Yes, Lisa.
I have a lot to say. First of all, I attended that 417 meeting at the Benton County Planning meeting, and it's hard being on that side. When we talk about annexation, and we talk about,
Lisa, can you?
Yeah, we can't hear you.
when we talk about annexation, I know it's hard to be on that side, because it was hard for me to be on that side that night. There's multiple reasons. At first I wanted to say I was frustrated, but I don't even think it was frustration. I think it was disappointment on many levels. I'm disappointed that the county did not respect the city. We have a comprehensive plan that our citizens paid $250,000 for, and it was disregarded. I would like to see staff from now on, when anything comes through and it doesn't meet our comprehensive plan that we paid a lot of money for, we hired a lot of experts, that it is referred to in this, whatever we present to the county. Because the county kept saying, well, what does the city think? Well, we personally can't say what we think. If you meet state statute, if you meet ordinance, we have to do whatever we have to do. We're required by law. And as a Christian, we'll do what we're required by law. I will. And nowhere, so I stood up and I said, I'm not a representative of the city, but just because we vote some way does not mean we agree with some way. And I would like to see in one of sorry, I'm a little frustrated with this one, that every once in a while we'll have something come through that hits home. And this doesn't affect me in any way. It doesn't affect me personally in any way. It's about our community and what I've watched our community and how we care about one another and how we make decisions that are in the best of our neighbors. And at that committee, they talked about that planning commission, they talked about Christianity, and I would never do anything to hurt my neighbors. We have 5 acres in front of our home that we've had engineers look at. We paid lots of money to have engineers look at. And some of their proposals, I said no, because there's a neighborhood in front of us that I care more about than my pocketbook. And that's what our community has been about for so long. And so I'm disappointed in the relationship that we have. I'm disappointed on the county's definition of compatibility. You have some beautiful homes out there. And I wouldn't want to I would not want to build a business or a home or somewhere that I wasn't welcome. But some people, it's about money. And so if that's what it is, that's what it is. But there's some things that we need to fix. We need to fix the relationship. And I'm not saying that's our staff's. I'm saying there's a relationship that's broken that the county could care less what the city had to say. That our citizens paid $250,000 for an opinion. There should be value in that. There should be a relationship that we could say, we don't agree with this. And you have to define what is compatible. And for me, and looking at my 7-year-old daughter's dictionary, this isn't compatible to me. But I have to vote for it. But it's not compatible for me. And I put as one of my board goals is that we look at the relationship between the county and the city, that we work better together. Because I've seen some improvements between the county and the city. And one of them is the police department. I have seen the police department build a relationship, and I want to see that for the city as a whole and the county as a whole. So I'll vote what I have to vote. But I do want us to take into consideration, how can we improve this process? Because it's about being neighborly, it's about caring about our community, and it's about how our future growth is in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? David?
Mayor, thank you. I'll just state right out, this is a horrible location for an RV park. An RV park should be miles outside of a city limit, most especially when the land you're looking at is next to or near large estate homes. For the Benton County executive summary from the Benton County Planning and our own Planning Commission staff report to say that they must confirm compatibility with the surrounding land uses. This is not in acceptance of the surrounding land use. I don't understand how anyone could say that it is. The Benton County Benton County Planning Commission is an unelected body, and I've been told we must approve this. I'd like to hear why this is before us to be voted if we have no real say on it. I agree with Lisa. $235,000 was spent on a comprehensive plan for 2040. Staff was involved in it, the board was involved in it, and it was not addressed with this Benton County Planning Commission. This is 42 RVs on 5 acres. I mean, it's basically a step down from a mobile home park. The amount of sewer that will be used on this, I would think, would certainly elevate the sewer amount in that area. We are the elected body, elected to represent the citizens of Siloam Springs. The Benton County Planning Commission has not one single member representing Siloam Springs. I assume it's appointed by the county judge. I really wish we had the county judge and the quorum court's input on this, because I understand that this commission didn't really listen whatsoever to the 16 citizens of Siloam that showed up. And that the chairman of the commission basically ran roughshod over the other commission members and told them how he was going to vote and why they should all vote the same way. That's not how a chairman is supposed to run a meeting. But this is a significant development permit. I learned long ago the only thing that we cannot vote no on is a final plat. That if we have a preliminary plat that we wish to have a problem with or deny, you have to do it in the preliminary. The final plat, if they've done everything by the preliminary plat that was approved earlier, you can't deny the final plat. But I think that we should ask to refer this back to the quorum court or back to the BCPC, the Benton County Planning Commission. I don't think they had all the members there, which is fine if they had a quorum, but it certainly didn't sound like any of them gave any real input because the chairman obviously wanted it to be pushed through. On the executive summary from the Benton County Planning Board, it says, subject site is in the Siloam Springs planning area and subject to Siloam Springs significant development standards. However, per Arkansas statute 14-56-413, only municipalities having at least a population of 8,000 people, and for some reason they put in quotations, and situated on a navigable stream, can administer and enforce zoning ordinances in the planning area. Therefore, land use compatibility remains the responsibility of the County Planning Board. The subject application is for a single consideration, which is the compatibility of the subject application with the surrounding uses and the effectiveness of proposed mitigation. So if that was their single consideration, they violated their own requirement. If we are told that we're setting ourselves up for a lawsuit, I say let them sue. I am so tired of school boards, state legislators, municipalities being told that you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit and everything goes according to exactly what the governing body does not want to happen. It's been going on for decades. But just the threat of a lawsuit should not be what determines what's best for the citizens of Siloam Springs. And I don't think this is what's best for the citizens of Siloam Springs. I'd be interested to hear what the citizens who showed up at this meeting have to say. But when it's all said and done, I would like to consider that we table this till we get some more input from the rest of the governing body of Benton County. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Madam
Betsy?
Mayor. Like Director Rissler, I was at that meeting, and yeah, it was rough to feel like you were so disrespected by the county. I think we're the redheaded stepchild, is how it felt. And to say it's compatible is, I have no idea where that comes from. Or to say it doesn't affect property values. There's a $550,000 home across the street that a young couple built to sell. And yeah, when people see the sign that there's an RV park going in, that'll be short-term and transient people don't want to buy it. So it does affect property values. It doesn't meet what our comprehensive plan and our 1 mile radius. Yeah, I would be in favor of tabling it. If there's an appeal process, whatever needs to be done.
Madam Mayor, I will follow up on Betsy. I can tell you, and I know everybody makes fun of when I say when I was mayor, but when I was mayor, we did have West Benton County mayors meetings to organize because we all acknowledged that up and down the corridor, Gravette, Decatur, Gentry, Siloam, we were treated as if we did not belong, that Rogers and Bentonville did whatever they want, they always did, and we joked that there really should be a Western Benton County and an Eastern Benton County because we did not get listened to. And what's frustrating is that we ever allowed this particular planning body to go forward without a Siloam Springs representative. That was just following up. There is that over there, how they look at Siloam and all of the Western Benton County.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Lisa?
I have a question for Jay Wood.
Yes.
Can this board propose it to go back to the appeals board in Benton County for compatibility?
There is an appeal process through Benton County, but that would be for any aggrieved citizen.
But we can't as a board?
No, what we're tasked with is addressing whether the applicant has met the requirements, the city's requirements for a significant development permit. Staff spent many hours looking at all the requirements, assessing and addressing those requirements, imposing conditions, all of which is in our staff report. And the staff conclusion was that when those conditions were met, that the significant development permit should be approved by the board. And that's the issue that's before the board on our agenda.
So the planning commission can refer it to be, who referred it to go to the planning, the Benton County planning? Was it when our planning commission, or was it staff?
I can't answer who referred it to go there, but Benton County has jurisdiction over
Right.
all those planning issues because it's outside the city limits.
Right, but somebody had to authorize it to go, because not all of our stuff goes to the county, even if it's in that 1 mile radius. This was an exception. Not everything went through the county. And it was even said at that meeting that not everything goes to the county. Who took it to the county?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know who referred it to the county. I know the county zoning applies to certain developments.
But they
There's
don't
not
have a zoning. The county doesn't have a zoning.
Benton County has a zoning, they have a zoning ordinance that addresses zoning and planning issues.
That meeting, they said they do not have a zoning.
That's correct. It's not a zoning ordinance, but it is a planning ordinance.
That defines zoning. I'm sorry, I'm not mad at you. I'm just asking questions because I want an explanation.
Listen, I don't have the county's ordinance in front of me. In general, for example, the city has zoning ordinances where we zone properties as residential or commercial or different categories of residential or commercial or industrial. That's the best example I have for a zoning ordinance.
Because they said they can't define it as residential or because they have no zoning, which
Well,
explains a lot about the county.
What we are not, we're allowed to require the development to comply with our general planning requirements, which is why this is in front of us. And if you look at the city's planning ordinance, as staff did, step by step, there are a number of code provisions of our city code that they're required to comply with. And that's what staff went through, at least 5 or 6 sections of our development code to make sure the project was in compliance.
And I appreciate staff for doing that.
As a matter of state law, the city is not allowed to establish zoning in this 1 mile area.
Right.
There could be an exception as we look at possible annexation. If the city bordered the Illinois River, we would be bordering a navigable stream, in which case the city suddenly and mysteriously would have the power to address zoning within its planning area. But as of today, we're not bordering a navigable stream, as was noted in the Benton County's site plan review.
So this board has no authority to push it back on the county to reconsider the compatibility.
That's correct. That's not this board's position.
So why is it that we're asked to vote on this?
Because the applicant, since it is within our planning area, the applicant is required to comply with our developmental standards.
Not our future plans.
Not our future plans to the extent of zoning.
But
Is
the,
this because it's within the 1 mile planning
Carol,
area?
if you, please speak
Is it
into your.
because it's within the 1 mile planning area?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
but why do we have something even considered if no matter what we vote, doesn't matter?
My understanding is what you're considering is whether it meets our requirements and standards for a significant development permit. The county did not, I don't know if they considered that part or not, but as a city, within our 1 mile radius, you all as a board have to look at it and say, we agree or it doesn't. We don't agree that it meets our standards. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, that's correct. In the event the board said, well, this absolutely does not meet our significant development standards, then the board would be charged with denying this application.
Well, I would like to see what our significant development standards are. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
There are a number of standards that are referenced in the staff report. Page 4 of the staff report talks about section 102-53, section 102-74, 102-75. So if you look at the first paragraph on page 4 of the staff report, a number of sections of the city's development code are referenced.
And this came through the planning commission too, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it did come through planning, and I believe they
And they approved it?
approved it.
I'm still back to the question of if it meets the significant development permit, according to staff, why is it before this board of directors?
Mayor,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
David's air quotes on the waterway and Jay's comment about the waterway. Does the fact that the city limits at Kayak Park does touch on the Illinois River not count?
Madam Mayor, I've not seen a city limit map that shows the city limits extend all the way to the Illinois River.
Well,
think the city
kayak
owns
park
property there.
is probably not on the map you saw, but the kayak park several miles away is city limit property.
No, it's city property. It's not in our city limits.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Patterson made sure it became part of the city limits, and it is on the Illinois River.
It's the same thing with City Park. Once we annex, it becomes city property. It's inside our city limits.
Gotcha.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to defer this until we can get all of these questions answered.
Okay, so, yeah. Betsy, you had something else?
I completely agree. I wondered, we've got a lot of citizens here to talk about it. Would it be
Sure.
appropriate to hear from them
We can
before
ask for
we
comments
table it?
before we make any kind of a motion, because there has not been a motion made at this time. So we can ask for comments from the audience, if you all are at the point you're ready to do that. Okay, so is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this resolution 23-24? If so, if you will come to the podium, give us your name and your address, please.
James Barnett, 21261 Aberley Lane, Salem Springs. Obviously, I did not know about this until the signs went up, and then I began to understand. And so as a citizen, you find out about this after the fact. You don't find out about it ahead of time when it's being worked on. Obviously, when this came, I live in this area, and I know my neighbors in that area. And obviously, I'm very concerned about an RV park, a commercial operation going into a residential section of the city. Truthfully, what I'm the most disappointed in is in our city and how we went about doing this work, going to the county. This is a little bit new to me. I don't do this every day. And I did go to I came in at the time when the city planning was meeting on it, and that's when I was able to speak at that time. But with all respect, as I read the 7 questions that Ben answered and the staff answered, I just disagree with every one of them. They're just not true, because he makes comments of, the first question is, doesn't interfere with the owner's reasonable peace and enjoyment of neighboring properties. No, it does. It does cause, tension in the neighborhood when you have 42 motorhomes, or potentially, and that many folks. Number 2, doesn't substantially damage property value. You don't have to be, too swift to know that property values will be affected with a 42-unit RV park. 3 is, will it be compatible with respect and the contents and the location? That area isn't the most beautiful area, I'm telling you, but we want it to get better, and we are working for it to get better. This will actually deteriorate that area. So again, when we were at Benton County, and they asked the Benton County Planning, did Siloam Springs approve it? I came to the meeting, and every member, almost to the person after the event, said, I wouldn't have voted for this if I would have had a choice. They wouldn't, the planning committee, but the document they got sort of said, this is all fine and dandy, everything is great. So the Benton County group, when they asked the Benton County planning person did Siloam Springs have any objections? You were there. She said no. They said it's fine. Well, that if there would have been some type of response to, hey, we have to abide by the law, and we're going to do that, but then we have the opportunity to say that, what, this is not compatible with our long-term plan. We have a 2040 comprehensive plan, and this is a commercial business in a residential area. So there's a number of things. Again, the process is learning. I'm for this couple. I think, an RV park of putting in and, outside Siloam Springs a little bit further is a good idea. That's just fine. It's just not the right place for this to happen. So I don't know what we can do to consider it differently, but I'm obviously concerned about this location for this RV park.
Thank you, James. Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Randy Box, 21249 Aberley Lane. My wife and I, Mary, and I wrote Mr. and Ms. Taylor back on April the 30th, a letter, and what I'd like to do with you board members is to share what we wrote to them.
And Mr. Fox, just if I could, just a moment. I believe that you all received copies of those letters that were written. Did you all not receive those?
It was referenced in the email, but we did not get the letters.
You all did not see the letter. Okay, I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Thank
Shall
you,
I go
sir.
ahead?
Yes, sir.
My wife and I are writing to you as residents and concerned citizens of the proposed 42-unit RV park on Waukesha Road. We express to you our profound and deep concerns regarding the proposed development on a 5-acre parcel of land directly adjacent to our primarily residential neighborhood. Our community is comprised of single-family homes, most of which are situated on sizable plots of land that afford privacy, serenity, and tranquility, attributes that have defined the character and the appeal of our area. The introduction of a high-density RV park within such proximity poses significant threats to our quality of life, safety, and property values in our neighborhood. That was the introduction, and then I've got several sections here that we set aside. The first one is incompatibility with the community character. The proposed density of the RV park with units spaced merely 20 feet apart starkly contrasts with the spacious and private landscape of our residential properties. Such a development would not only alter the visual landscapes, but also detract from the serene, family-oriented nature of our community. It is simply not compatible at all with existing land usage. Impact on traffic and safety. The addition of potentially 80 more vehicles accessing a single entry point raises serious concerns about residential traffic congestion, road safety, and the strain on our local infrastructure. The road is not designed to handle such a high volume of traffic, especially with families and children who jog, walk, bike, and play within the community. I'm going to come back at the end and comment on that if I could. Property values. The proximity of a crowded RV park could significantly affect and damage property values. This area includes homes ranging from 200,000 to 1 million plus, and the presence of an RV park could deter potential buyers, therefore depreciating the investment that many of us have made in our properties. We strongly feel the critical importance of protecting our property rights. Safety and aesthetics. Based on observable trends in similar developments, RV parks often become semi-permanent residences and can gradually devour into less maintained and unsafe conditions. This decline could pass increased security risk and create an eyesore at the gateway to our community, affecting pride and coherence. The RV park would negatively impact the quiet nature of the neighborhood and will not be an asset to the community. Conclusion. While we understand and appreciate the need for diverse housing in Benton County, the proposed RV park, its location and design are fundamentally incompatible with the character and the needs of our neighborhood. We strongly urge you to find a more suitable solution that upholds the interests and the welfare of all parties involved. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. We look forward to your support in protecting the integrity and compatibility of our community. One final comment, if I may. 48 years ago, my father-in-law, Ray Barnett, asked me to, one day to go out running with him. I did. And after about 100 yards, I had to stop because I was not in very good physical condition at all. At that point in time, I made an obligation to myself that physical exercise was very important. I'm an octogenarian now. And the one thing that I think has taken me into these 80 years is the fact that 6 days a week, and many times it's 7 days a week, I'm out on the road. In the early days, it was running. After a while, it had to be jogging. And then after a while, it is walking. I would say there's not a person in here that I'm looking at right now that has spent more personal time on Waukesha and Fisher Ford Road than I have. I'm out there, as I've already said, 6 to 7 days a week, 1 hour at a time, and I know what the traffic is like. I know who the people are. We wave to each other, we talk to each other. But when we get more cars out there, I'm just wondering, is this octogenarian going to be able to go ahead and do what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
Yes. Hi, I'm the owner of the property that is developing this RV park. And
So we need your name.
oh
and
yeah, I'm
address for
Russell
the record.
Taylor, and I am very excited. My wife and I are both very passionate about people and passionate about RV parks. And the perception that it's going to devalue the area or be negative impact to the area, where our parcel is located, the gentleman that spoke earlier are over a mile away down the road, and they also connect to Highway 16 in their specific subdivision. I am not in a neighborhood. I'm not adjacent to the neighborhood. As the letter said, I'm about 750 feet from the Simmons Hatchery and all up that road is industrial. There's also a quarry and a lot of traffic that's generated from that anyway, along with the kayak park that I'm very familiar with, and my wife and I are very excited to be leasing that this year as well and running that. So we're very passionate about RV parks, and there may be a misconception, but we have firsthand experience with citizens, with tenants that rent RVs, and those are people just like you and I. Those are people that, you know, a lot of people are building a house, coming to the area. You know, Salem Springs is growing. This is actually a really good benefit because the proximity to the kayak park is very close. It brings people into that and to see that. For us, it's a big ministry opportunity as well with our tenants. There's been a lot of our tenants that, you know, honestly, that have come to Christ through, and, you know, I don't know where everyone stands on this, but for us, ministry is definitely part of this, that come to Christ through our relationship we have by renting them an RV pad. The next thing is, you know, maintenance and things like that of the hatchery, which is literally 750 feet away. That would be definitely considered commercial. To the north of me, between me and the hatchery, it's all vacant land. And so the proximity, I'm not in a neighborhood. I'm not close to a neighborhood of houses. And so I think some of the understandings that are being stated today, or some of the things that are being stated in these meetings for this plot of land, I think are very, you know, they're very jaded, because my neighbor there's mobile homes and there is trailers and RVs all around this area. My RV park will be nicer than that. I'm not here to bring a poor representation of an RV park to the county, to the city. It's for residents to come, enjoy the Dogwood Festival, enjoy the kayak park, enjoy all the things the community has to offer. I'm born and raised in Northwest Arkansas. I'm not some giant conglomerate trying to do something. We're doing a family business here. And we're doing it, you know, I also do floats on the kayak on the Illinois River. I'm very passionate about that, and I'm passionate about the area. And I would not put something in that I want to, you know, obviously devalue the area and bring it down. I'm going to bring it up. It's going to be a nice park, and anyone that stays over a week, they have background checks, and we ensure that we have a good environment and good people. And I know how to manage a park, and I know how to manage people, and my wife and I are very passionate about it. And RV parks, you know what? Most of them in our general area, if you look at it, most of them are very nice and have nice people. Now, there are some that are not, and that is not the kind of RV park we are going to be running. So we are again, I think this is a big asset to the community, and not at all anything that would retract from the community, and it brings people in, creates additional revenue, and is a service to citizens and to people coming to visit. There's a lot of RVs that come to visit this area, and a lot of people moving in, and there is a need for an RV park.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, he didn't give his address. What's your home address?
Yeah, my home address is 23640 War Eagle Blacktop Road in Springdale, Arkansas. So, and I own a business here in Salem Springs. So, and that is on Highway 59. So I own a floats business, Illinois River RV and floats.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I've
David?
just got a question for Mr. Russell. You stated something about, I thought you said the closest residence was a mile, but the map we have here where your property is, there's 2 homes right there on either side of the street or of the highway.
I did not state that it was a mile. I said I'm 750 feet from the Simmons Hatchery.
I heard you say something was a mile.
The citizens that have made the complaints today are a mile away.
Oh, okay.
And the letter said adjacent to my property.
But there is residences.
There are residents, and there's also, you know, my immediate to the south, There's trailers, there's mobile homes, there's RV parks there. There's one house across the street that is currently vacant, and the surrounding properties, aside from that, there's like 30 acres behind me and a house on Highway 59, but the majority of that 30 or 40 acre plot is also vacant.
Thank you for clarification.
And then I've worked very closely with our engineer as well on the significant development requirements to make sure that the reason why, it's in front of everyone is because the significant development, if I just put together some whim and just said, I'm going to throw some RVs in a field and, not have any care what they look like or anything like that, then that's what, the significant development process ensures that, that it's a quality setup, quality park, and the engineering is done correctly. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, directors, for Mr. Russell or anyone else? Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, if you'd like to come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Stephen McLeod. I'm actually one of those residents right across the street. I live at 2795 Waukesha Road. And I will say, I'm supportive of you guys. Again, it's no hard feelings against you guys by any means. I don't want that to be portrayed at all. I do agree with what's been said. There would be lots more traffic. There is quite a bit of traffic that goes by already for the RV park because they're going right down my road all the time. We do have kids. We do have church get-togethers where there's lots of people outside in our yard since we do have the space. So we have, lots of things like that too. My main concern is not only the traffic, but I agree, you do have the Simmons, that's further down, but majority of all of that action down there shuts down at 5 o'clock. They go home to their homes. They're not out and about all night. There are people that work the night shift at Simmons, but they're right there and they're inside and they're not out. You can go in my backyard and it's very nice. You're right on the edge of town, but you feel like you're in the country. So the noise impact is not very much from even the CenturyLink building that's right beside us. But they're very quiet when they work. But again, that's during the day. They go home to their homes and it's not extra traffic at night. The RV park that would be right across from us, they can get up and pull out at any time of the night or anything like that as well. So I will agree with other things that were said, and I won't waste any more of your time, but I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me speak. I think it's a good idea. I just think it's a bad location for us residents that are on that road. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you. Yes, ma'am. Please give us your name and address.
Angela Johnson, I'm kind of sick right now, so I'll spare
I
everybody the
understand.
pain. 17931 Fisher Ford Road, so I'm maybe half a mile down the road from the RV park.
Just step forward to the microphone.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
just don't want to spread germs. I just want to agree with what all of my neighbors have said about the RV park. I do think it's a great idea, but it'd be great if it was like on that side of Fisher Ford Bridge, further out. So yeah, I just agree with all of my neighbors that are against this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Okay, Ron Holmeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive, and I'm also Justice Peace 12 for Siloam Springs, and this is in my ward. And prior to being on Justice Peace for Siloam Springs, I spent about 6.5, 7 years on the Benton County Planning Board, which I resigned from to take the position as Justice Peace, and before me was Ken Knight. So Siloam had pretty good representation for about a 10 or 15 year run there. Couple points on the county side. Planning board, the only person that can appeal something from planning board action is the applicant. If they are denied, they can appeal to the planning board of appeals. None of the neighboring properties have that opportunity. The only recourse that I'm aware of they have is they have to go to court to try and do something about that. The compatibility chart with the county gives them the planning board the ability to deny something if they are not meeting the compatibility, buffering, and screening requirements. As long as all those requirements are met, it was always my opinion and several of the other board members, that planning board members, that if they've met those requirements, then they have to be approved, even if it lists them as being incompatible with their neighbors. And that's the downside of having no zoning where you can say this use is allowed in this area versus a compatibility chart. Now, I could be very wrong on that, but that's just the way it was when I was on there. And, you know, a couple of them are still there that are on there. The nearest representative we have would be Vernon Reams out of the Highfill area that's on the board at this point. I don't know. I really don't have a whole lot other to say. I'd answer any questions you have about the design or compatibility, or not compatibility, but any of the improvements. Since I am a justice peace, I was not able to present this before the planning board, and I didn't realize it was going to go before the planning board. I wouldn't have even done the job at all. So just want to get that out there as well. So if you have any questions for me that's not related to compatibility or the use, then I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just one more thing. The neighbors, the Panettas that built that home could not be here. They have kids, things going on. Jim McDonald and Schaefer's. Again, you know, we're for the couple, but there's not one citizen on that road that wants that RV park, not one. And so I think to say that's going to be a plus to the community is just not true. It's not going to be a plus to the community. In that area, it's not going to be a plus there. It's going to be a impact to our community in that area, that end of town.
Thank you, James. Anyone else? If not, directors? any
Madam
oth-
Mayor,
I'm
I've just
sorry.
got
Yes, I'm coming
one
back to
other-
you. Yes,
Pardon?
go ahead. I'm coming back to the directors, so go ahead, David.
Regarding the earlier workshop we had, Community Development Director Chris Paxton said during the annexation workshop, we utilized the future land use map for planning. This RV park is not part of the future land use map. And the amount of money that was spent on this comprehensive plan should have been utilized, that plan should have been utilized in terms of this development. And the fact that our city had it and what it had in this area should have been communicated to the Benton County Planning Commission. So I'm just saying that future land use is something that I just can't wrap my head around why that we move this forward. And then the only other thing I was going to ask was, Jay, did you consider that the kayak park touches the Illinois River? It is city limits. It's been that way for several years.
Well, I can't, I don't know what is city limits or not on that end of town. I know the kayak park belongs to the city, but whether that's been annexed into the city, whether that's been approved by the county judge and filed with the county clerk, I don't have the answer to that.
Long ago.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Kevin.
Kevin Moore, city engineer. I do want to state that the code that was referenced as far as navigable waters states that the population or the city has to be a city having 8,000 population or more and situated on the navigable waters. So I think that since that portion isn't contiguous with the rest of our city and we're not actually situated on the Illinois River, that wouldn't apply.
Thank you, Kevin. Yes, Lisa.
So I want to clarify a few things. That probably feels beat up tonight. That's not the intent. We appreciate the job you do, and we have a job too. And we're elected to represent the citizens. And so I do have a question that James brought up. When you were considering, when you were filling out the paperwork, and you were saying something about considering the neighbors. Was that city limit neighbors or county neighbors or all neighbors? How was you considering neighbors? Did you like go door to door? Did you, when that first question that James brought up, James, do you have that with you? I could bring it up, I guess.
Oh, I think so, Madam Mayor?
Yes, Chris.
So I have a couple of things to clarify. And I'll get back to your question in just one moment. I did want to clarify that the purpose of having future land use map designations in the county is to determine at annexation the appropriate pattern of development to determine zoning after annexation. So the primary purpose we have future land use map determinations within the county area is not to regulate or control those as though it is a replacement for zoning. It is a determination to predict what our future growth areas will look like. That way, when those areas are annexed, it's brought in appropriately through the annexation process.
Before you move on to your next comment, I have a comment on that then.
Okay.
So it's for our future, and so you're saying it's only for annexation, then why do we even, I mean, we're not guaranteed an annexation, so why are we wasting money on looking at future plans that may not ever exist if we're never going to use them to say, this is the study we've done? Why could we not? And is there harm in telling the county, you know, hey, we did this study. Can you please at least just take it into consideration? It's not telling them what to do. And I know we can't tell them what to do. They can't tell us what to do. But it's a respect thingy. Let's respect our neighbors. Let's respect
If we don't think
departments.
if we don't think this property's going to be in the city limits soon, in the next 20 years, it will be annexed at some point.
I think, Madam Mayor,
Yes, Chris.
I think another thing to consider is where Ben was coming from with his responses back from the questions that were provided. Since we do not have control of the land use, if you look back at condition number 1 that was provided, this staff report was written from a perspective based off of an administrative policy that states that the planning department is responsible for determining what the use is based off of the project proposal. So the land use decision for C2 was based off of the project proposal. So condition 1 stated within this consideration was if the county approves it, then the board could then approve it. If it doesn't, it would be remitted back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. So Ben's report was based off of the perspective that if the county approved the proposal and that proposal fits a C2 use, then these are the considerations that would apply. We're required under that administrative policy based off of our utilities to determine what the proposal would fit as. Not what the land use is, but the proposal was for an RV park. So RV park in this case would fall under that C2 category. So everything thereafter says if the county approves this as compatible, then these are the considerations that we have.
Okay, so tell me the difference between industrial and commercial.
Industrial has different things like manufacturing. It can be light manufacturing all the way to heavy industrial uses. Typically has larger parking lots. In the rear of an industrial use, you would find a 6 to 8 inch deep gravel parking lot area that's typally surrounded by a privacy fence. It depends on what specifically it is on the
Well, because the
industrial
comment
side.
was made, well, we're sitting 700 feet from an industrial area. Well, to me, an industrial and commercial are two totally different things in my mind, but it doesn't matter what's in my mind. It matters what's state statute and what's ordinance. So what's the difference between,
That's, the land use determination has to come from the county. So we did not make that determination. The county made that determination.
that it was going to be a C2?
No, we did not make a determination.
No,
would be-
that the
oh,
county
the
made it.
county, that's correct. That it would follow, the proposal that was approved was not approved as a C2, but the proposal that was being provided best aligns with our C2 zoning designation, and that's where the planning portion of the ordinance for the development standards for that C2 exists. So that was the starting point of our consideration.
Okay.
Therefore, out of the C2 zoning determination, based just off of the proposal, nothing to do with the consideration at the site, we looked at that and saw what is enforceable for a C2 zoning based off of, for example, setbacks and different
Right.
things like
And I understand your role in it. I understand you were just doing your job. Trust me, if you don't think I don't understand that, you know I've worked in government and I know you're just doing your job. In my job in the government, I have taken things a little step further if necessary. And that's where I'm saying, I appreciate staff doing their job. I totally appreciate it. But I would like to see you take a step further. If we're going to spend if we're going to spend our citizens' tax dollars, I would kind of like to see that it's represented in anything that goes to the county, just to say, hey, just take it into consideration that, we used our citizens' tax dollars. It should benefit them somehow. And it doesn't if we're bringing in things that we don't, that doesn't match our community in a specific area. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's not putting staff down. That's saying it's a learning process.
I would just say that when we're building our staff reports, we do it from a perspective of the legality. The legality in this case is that since the county did the compatibility determination, we looked at, what can happen is we can enforce all of these individual development standards, but we also cannot advocate.
Right.
Staff is not here to advocate for.
I'm not asking you to advocate for a person. I'm asking you to say, you know what, our citizens spent this money. Can you take this document into consideration? Because we have to use it. Can you please consider it? That's all.
Yeah, and I think we did have, we did have the extra meeting with some of the citizens around there, and we provided them with that information to
And I
take with
appreciate
them. And I'm not sure if it made it all the way to the county, but
It did. I was there. And I think that's the disappointing part, that we expressed the amount of money we paid, and we expressed a lot. I didn't. But the one thing that the planning commission kept saying, and they looked at their staff member, and I don't know what position that staff member was, but she kept saying, well, they approved it. Well, they kept saying, what does the city of Salem think? Well, they approved it. Well, what does the city of Salem think? Well, they approved it. That's all we heard. We didn't hear what the city of Salem thought. And they obviously wanted to know what the city of Salem thought, but that's all they would say. And so, and I understand, you guys did a good job. I'm not saying you didn't get a job. I know you feel beat up. You did your job. I know you did. And so I want to say that, and that's what I was wanting to clarify. The other thing I want to clarify is the owners.
Hey, Ms. Lisa, could I go back and just answer a question before you give your second comment? Chris, it is my understanding, and if I'm correct, the only reason that we're even given any input at all in this matter is it's in our planning area.
that's correct.
I understand all
So if
that.
it wasn't in our planning area, because the only thing before the board today is that it meets our significant development requirements. That's it.
And I understand that. But I also understand if you're asking for us to look at this, we can give input. And we have the documentation. But I never did get my question answered about considering the neighbors. When you consider the neighbors, are you considering just the neighbors in the city limits, or are you considering the county neighbors? Who you consider, and how do you know what the neighbors think? Did you go door to door? How do you answer that question? And why is it even a question? Because it's it's an assumption that's being made. And how does somebody make an assumption on how the neighbors feel? They're asking you to make an assumption. That's not fair to you.
And, one of the things that you may see in Ben's staff report regularly is the word evidence. There's no, for example, it says staff is aware of no evidence that the proposed development will cause a consistent disturbance to the peace or enjoyment of the neighboring properties. And I understand that there is a thought process between the neighbors that, this will happen here because it happened there. However, this is a legal document. We have to make a consideration based off of the evidence provided. And unfortunately, that would fall under conjecture. We don't have we can't state that this will happen because it hasn't been built and it hasn't happened yet. We can't state that with full authority that this will develop into, for example, an RV park that would cause a significant issue with the neighbors because we don't have any evidence to support that.
And I appreciate that answer. That's all I wanted to know is how do you come up with it? And you just said,
If I
based on
might
the
add one
evidence.
thing.
Yeah.
Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner, so I'm author of the staff report. So what we do when the significant development permits go out is we do legal notification requirements, and we take that very seriously. Everyone within 300 feet of the boundary of the property is sent a letter, and that's not just going in the mail, that we had to have proof of mailing that those letters went out. There's a notice sign put out on the property, and there's also a notice ad in the newspaper. And so that's done, we do that intentionally because we want to get the feedback from the neighbors. We don't have we're not going door to door, knocking on people trying to get feedback. We say, this is happening in the letter. If you want to comment, write a letter back to us. And when I wrote the staff report, I had no letters.
Right. Oh.
So nothing had come to us indicating there was any problem whatsoever with the neighborhood. And I was, like Chris saying, taking the perspective of C2 zone and what would be appropriate in that area. And so I did not have any of your testimony, unfortunately, when I wrote the report.
And I appreciate, that's the answer I wanted. That's the truth. That's the answer. And that's what I was asking. And so I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
And
Lisa.
it's-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I just have one more thing.
Sure.
As far as you guys, I get it. I get that you want to do a business. My husband and I do the same thing, and I get it. This isn't about you. This is not personally about you. This is about the neighborhood and the processes and making sure everybody's okay, but it's not personally about you. So don't take anything personal that's said in any meeting that you go to. It's not about you, okay?
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? Yes, David?
I just had a question, if Ben or Kevin or Chris know, did our comprehensive plan that we passed take in the planning area? Was that part of it? I thought it was. Okay.
The answer to that is yes. Is that correct?
Well, I
For
thought,
the
I thought
record.
it had been discussed when it was being presented that
Yes.
we included it because that's
Thank you,
where
Dan.
the growth of the city was within that 1 mile. So I still don't understand why the Benton County Planning Commission would not have looked at our comprehensive plan as something that would help affect their decision. So I just wanted to make sure that we did have that part of it in the comprehensive plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, you're welcome. Anyone else? Directors?
Madam Mayor,
Yes. Reed?
go ahead.
No, I was going to make a motion, so nope, I'm glad you were saying.
Okay.
Somebody out there too.
Well,
Open to,
we've actually gone past the input for the citizens, and however, because this is an important matter before this board, you may come forward and give us your name and address and your comment.
Rebecca Wyatt, 1109 East Jewel. Yeah. I just have some questions. I'm not learned on this very well, but 42 RVs is a lot of traffic. So I have been in RV parks, so I'm not quite understanding that. That would be a significant noise and movement of vehicles in a neighborhood. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think you're missing something. I'll come to you all and ask you, whenever you look at the impact on a street or a neighborhood for traffic, what is your consideration? Well, how do you gauge that?
Kevin Moore, city engineer. So a lot of the things that we're looking at, so typically for when a development is incoming, we use the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which has studied developments like this across the nation, and they assign an expected load of traffic on the street system based on, in this case, based off of the number of RV stalls. And so that's the number that we used, and I believe it was 143 trips per day, and that was actually the higher weekend number, not the lower weekday number in this case. So, and then we balance that against our current traffic counts on those streets, which for Waukesha was 833 vehicles per day prior to this development.
I can't see how an RV park like this could raise prices on anybody's houses in that neighborhood. Am I missing something?
You're right on.
Okay, so if you pass this tonight, would it be okayed? Or if you didn't pass it, would it not be okayed?
If they pass this tonight, the significant development permit would be granted and the project could move forward. However, the final significant development would have to come back to the board for approval, but I'll kind of let them answer kind of what would happen if it's approved now and then if it has to come back for final approval.
So what's before the board tonight is the approval of the significant development through a resolution. So what that means is that then the developer, the engineer can come back with an actual construction plan set. So what's before the board right now is civil plans. And so this is probably more Kevin's area, but so it basically gives permission to proceed forward. So we would then review those construction plan sets, and if that meets all the requirements of the fire and all the different things that we look at, then they would have to go through Benton County to get the approval for their building permit. So that's basically what the process would be. Did you want to add anything?
Kevin Moore, city engineer. That's exactly right. So the two kind of planning things that you see are preliminary plats, which come back before you as a final plat, and then significant developments, which only come before you once, which is tonight. So if this is approved tonight, then the developer is approved to move forward with their other permits, like building permits and grading permits and things like that.
And will they get those from the county?
The building permit would be from the county, that's correct. And the grading permit, if they're over an acre, that would be at the state.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Chris Paxton, Community Development Director. I did want to also state that if there were an appeal to the county, I believe that would put a stay or a stop work order on any and all of our permits until that issue was resolved, and I would deflect that to the city attorney for verification.
Well, we just got told by a JP that there is no appeal process except from the owner himself.
That's correct. So if there is an appeal process, it would have to be through a lawsuit.
So, decades ago, I was explained by a man that owned a lot of property. If you have a house and your neighbor is in terrible shape, they don't take care of the property, you can actually sue them for losing your property value. So I guess I should be asking you, is that correct? Can these property members?
I can't hear you really
Oh, I'm
well.
so sorry. I was told years ago, I don't know if this is correct or not, but if they put an RV park in and they ruin people's property prices, can the property members then, would they be allowed to sue this RV park for causing them to lose a significant amount of their property value? Is that something would be a recourse for them?
Madam Mayor, may I address the board?
Yes, you may.
The board has heard a lot of citizen testimony, a lot of factual testimony about this project. The board's hearing tonight sounds a lot like a rezoning hearing. Should this be rezoned in a particular manner or not be rezoned in a particular manner? But since this is outside the city limits, it's not a rezoning matter. What's before the board is, did staff proceed correctly in applying very objective city standards from the city's comprehensive plan, from the city's developmental plans? Did staff and the Planning Commission properly apply those standards in determining whether this project meets those very specific city requirements? And the city is allowed to supervise this project, in other words, because it's within our planning area. We get to supervise the project, but we don't get to dictate what sort of project would be allowed. That's on the county.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Because the assumption of the Benton County Planning Commission that the city of Siloam is not touching a navigable stream, I believe we need to have that researched, because if it is considered that our city limits are part of that, then the Benton County Planning Commission would have nothing to do with this whatsoever. It would only be with this board. It says it right here in their report. So because of their assumption, and they went ahead and made determination that possibly they did not have the right to do, I would like to make a motion to table this. What?
I wanted to ask a question before a motion is made.
I will hold my motion to table.
And to answer your questions, I believe that what you're asking concerning the law is something that the residents or the owners would have to seek legal counsel about. It's not something,
Thank you for.
yes.
I'm sorry, I just didn't understand it all the way.
Sure.
And we've had, I remember several months ago, one of our men in the audience came up and spoke for a lady and a property owner, and you guys changed things for her. And I just was so touched at neighborliness. And I just thought, I don't know any of these people that own these properties, and my property's worth a lot less. But if I had an RV park just go right next door into that vacant lot next to me, I mean, my property value would just plummet. And so, I understand business, that you would like, it's a nice location maybe, but maybe, the Lord will give you an idea of maybe something different. Or, I'll just be praying for you. And I'm sorry, for making it sound antagonistic. So I'll
Thank
head
you.
back.
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I did have
Yes,
one
David.
thing before I hand this off. We just heard from our city engineer that the number of vehicles that they had predicted on this property, I think he said 140, something like that. Is that right, Kevin? You get it out of that big manual, right?
Yes, that's
It's
correct.
like
143 based off of the 42.
I'm really surprised with 42 RV spaces that is such a small number. Simply because when I tried to develop my property, I had 14 estate-size homes, and not this city engineer, but the previous one came up with 700 daily trips coming and going off of my drive. So it's kind of one of those things where you say, I don't see, 149 seems pretty low for 47 RVs. But I cannot imagine even that many, 143 additional on that area of traffic. And I
Thank you,
will,
David. Betsy?
One thing, and then back to you. This is for Ben. I'm not going to try to quote what you said earlier, But you said you wrote the report before you had heard from any citizens, before you had heard any of this, the letters, all of that. Now that and you said something about you wished, I don't know if you said you wished you'd heard from it or something. Would your report change with the information you have now?
That's a good question. Honestly, I would have to really think about that. I do feel that we are very limited. I agree with the city attorney. We really cannot be deciding what use is appropriate. So even if some of those criteria were, potential flags, I don't think that would be sufficient to recommend denial. So what I would say is maybe the wording would be different in some sections, but the recommendation would probably be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Chris Paxton, the Community Development Director. I just wanted to discuss just briefly the territorial jurisdiction state statute. And I'm just going to read it again just so it's fresh on everyone's mind. Cities now having an 8,000 population or more and situated on a navigable stream may administer and enforce zoning ordinances outside of their corporate limits, but may not exceed the territorial limits under subdivision A2 of this section. I would like to point out that we do not have a zoning administered in the county, so even if this is something that we can look at and find that we can administer in the county, as of the date of the submittal of the project, it was not administered, therefore it would be a moot point.
Thank you, Chris, for that clarification. Alan, you have anything? No, okay. So then, directors, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I
Oh, Reed.
would like to speak.
Well, you may speak, sir.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you. I want to bring up something that I haven't heard at all here tonight, and that is, what kind of precedent are we setting? Here's a couple that bought a property. They went through every hoop, every permit, everything needed to be done legally. These are not criminals. And they have done everything right. And we are, it appears as though we're attempting to dictate to them what they can do with their property that they have purchased legally, got the permits legally, everything done correctly, and we're wanting to dictate to them they cannot do something. I believe this is a precedent that is, I don't think we as a board need to be setting this. And I can appreciate having a home, wanting to keep the value, wanting to live that in quiet enjoyment, enjoy the road to walk or bike or cycle on or whatever you're going to do. But in these United States, we have that opportunity to make a purchase, to go through all the hoops and hollers that we've got to deal with the city, with the county. And they have done that. I don't know how many dollars they've spent on getting the plans written up and all those things, and we're getting ready to, I guess the best way I can say it is we're putting personality to this. As far as us as a board, our job is to say, has it been done legally? Not, is it necessarily the best for? I believe that goes to what Jay Williams was talking about. And it's not a, in many aspects, I think we've been out of order, kind of a point of order, because we're not on topic. Our topic is, have they done it right? And that's what our job as a board is to do. And I understand there's some people here that wish to keep their home values and what have you. But is that at the expense of telling someone else what they can do with their property and you don't own it? I have a very hard time with that, and I'd like to see us come to a good conclusion where you can have your home, have it appraised for multiple dollars more than you've purchased for, and you have that quiet enjoyment. But this couple has gone through, they went through the C2, they did everything according to law, and we're about to thwart them here. I have a very hard time with that, and obviously I'm not here to win friends and influence people, because I'll probably get a bunch of enemies tonight. But this is the United States, people, and they've done it right and legal. And I haven't heard anybody come and say they purchased that. What if the tables were turned and it were you that wanted to purchase a property? You did purchase a property, got everything done, all the permits and the whole bit done, to have somebody else dictate to you, it's legal what you're doing, but we're going to stop it. Like, ouch. That's hard for me to want to swallow. And I'm not here to say anybody's bad or good, but I think we have something before us that we've been talking all around for over an hour here. That's all I have to say, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor,
Thank you. Yes, Carol?
I move that we pass Resolution 23-24, Significant Development Permit, 2900 block of Waukesha Road.
Yes. Okay. So we don't have a second yet. We have a motion on the floor. We do have a question for the city attorney before I ask for a second. What is that question?
You said that our responsibility tonight is the board is voting on whether they agree with the city recommendation. We're just voting that we agree? Is that that's
So the
the word used?
Thank you. Board, what the board is addressing is the request for approval and Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of a significant development permit.
Madam Mayor, I will state again, there is a question of the Benton County Planning Commission having the authority to do what they did. And that is why I have brought up a tabling until we could get clarification on that.
So, to that, what you were stating, Chris, whenever you reread that state statute, are you saying?
Chris isn't an attorney.
No, I know he's not. So Jay, let me ask you, you are an attorney. From what Chris has said, if they table this to find out whether we are on a navigable stream, is that even going to make a difference?
I'm not aware that Siloam Springs meets the definition of the statute that provides that City of Siloam Springs is situated on a navigable stream. I'm not aware of that.
Thank you. So, right now, I have a motion on the table to approve Resolution 23-24.
Oh, a motion on the table. I thought you said a motion to table. My bad. I'm sorry.
I know. We have a motion on the table to approve Resolution 23-24 with the one remaining condition for drainage. Is that correct? Was that the condition?
That's correct. It's for the dedication of easements.
Okay, for easements. Okay, that's what we want in the, okay. So that's what the motion is. Okay, do I have a second for that?
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 23-24 with the remaining condition for easements. And we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair.
No.
Miley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Bristler.
I have another question because I want to stay legal. I'm okay out of giving respect to other directors when they ask to table, because I've asked to table things that I did not have the research and the information. I believe in giving that, so are we going to be voting on tabling it? Because I don't want it to go away. They have every right. So
No,
the process.
the motion preempted a
The table
table.
doesn't come first? I thought the table came first.
No,
It would?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
There could have been a motion to table. There was not a motion to table. There was a motion to pass. There was a second. So the procedural rules require the board to complete that vote.
So that is
I
what
didn't
you-
make the motion to table. I
Yeah.
started to, but I didn't
Yeah.
do it.
Oh, you never did?
No,
Okay.
the motion was never placed.
All right, then mine's yes.
Okay, then we have yes from Rissler.
Allen,
No,
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Resolution 23-24 is approved. Next is Resolution 24-24, Significant Development Permit, 3948 Highway 412 East for O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. So for your next significant development permit, you're looking at a second location for the O'Reilly's store here in Siloam Springs. This is located at 3948 Highway 412 East, and I don't believe the PowerPoint, oh, there it is. And it is a construction of a 7,000 square foot store. It will have single drive access with parking on the north side. Let me show you that. And dumpster location to the south. Of course, this is the building, so single car access, parking on both sides. And then we have the elevation views just showing what this will look like. This is at I kind of buzzed through this really quickly. This is at the former Whitco location on 412, if you guys know where that used to be. Anyway, the staff and planning commission is recommending approval of 3 suggested conditions. First is the need for a lot split. As the plans show for a separate lot, this needs to happen to the plans as consistent with city code requirements. The second and third conditions relate to drainage needs and easements updated on the drainage analysis. The easements will be needed prior to certificate of occupancy. Prior to the building permit. And then analysis will be prior to the building permit. With that, staff is recommending approval along with the Planning Commission, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, comments or questions? There is not. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 24-24? There is not. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-24?
So moved.
And Ben, what was the condition? One more time, so we've got it in the motion.
So this is a motion to approve with 3 needed conditions. Would you like me to state those conditions?
No, but the 3 listed conditions, there are 3, is that correct?
Yes.
That's what we need in the motion, thank you. So, do I have a motion?
He did, and then I seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Allen,
yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved, Resolution 24-24 is approved. So, we will now move on to our staff reports, which include the March financials and the administrator's report. And Christina, you have March financials, I guess.
I do. Christina Patricius, Finance Director. Actually, I just wanted to give you kind of a first quarter review for 2024. Nothing terribly in depth, but I wanted to let you know that so far the city's doing well. As you look at the first quarter financials, just recall that there are a lot of revenues in January, such as sales tax and utilities, where the read date ended in December. All of those are accrued back to last year. And the same will happen with the January financial revenue. It will come back to 2024 at the beginning of 25. But when you're looking at the financials, you'll see that the revenue looks a little bit low, but we are actually higher in revenue than the previous year this time. So we're doing well. And expenses have come in under budget. For the general fund, sales tax is up, but a little, not as high as it was last year, but we're still early in the year. And when I say not as high, I don't mean we're missing budget. I just mean that last year we were a little bit higher in the budget. And capital projects in the general fund from 2023, such as the court remodel and the ambulance purchases, all of those are moving forward into this year. Just a reminder. So you'll see those expenses included on the financials. For the street fund, here again, we have a lot of sales tax, but they have grant revenue for the Kenwood widening project. And this is the biggest portion of the increase over prior year revenue. Again, several large projects are moving forward from prior year, and that includes the Brentwood drainage. We have Lake Francis, the East Kenwood widening design, which is where the grant revenue came in, Sager Creek Drive, and the Simon Sager Avenue spur. Utility sales are up slightly, and power cost is down slightly. But we are still under budget in our expenses. Airport revenue is higher than budget, but slightly down from prior year, and expenses are under budget. And that's mainly because we haven't sold as much fuel, so our fuel purchases are a little bit lower. And for the healthcare fund, revenues and expenses are both under budget, but we have a positive net income of over $80,000 year-to-date. So if you review the March 31st financials and you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
I appreciate you, Ms. Christina. And what we'll do, board, going forward, when we have things, because we were talking about budget the last couple weeks, because I noticed numbers, things rolling off, coming on. So Christina is going to be coming quarterly just to give you updates like that, where you're just up to speed with everything going on. So you'll see her about every 3 months coming in, giving us an update. So thank you for that.
Well, it helps to hear her say, we're doing great.
Oh, move her up.
When
on
she
the
says we're
agenda.
under budget, I'm like, he's saving my job, keep me out of
Give
trouble.
her a set of pom-poms.
Can we move her up on the agenda? Does she have to be at the end?
No?
I mean, I'm sorry. Can she be moved? Seriously?
Well, we could.
I didn't hear you, Miss
However,
Lisa, I'm
it's nice
sorry.
to have her here if we have a financial question.
Oh, yeah, I was just asking, can we move her up on the agenda? Because she had to sit there.
No, she kept saying, I want to stay.
Oh, we know she did. She kept telling, yeah.
She loves being here.
I know she does.
So, Alan, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, Board. I have one expenditure to report for $54,367 for Superior Chevy. It's for a 2024 Tahoe emergency response vehicle for the fire department. And then just, I have a short list. We keep trying to have the ribbon cuttings, and if you want a ribbon cutting, just let me schedule it, and it'll rain. But we have put that off until Thursday, so I'm hoping you'll be able to come out. We'll just show off the golf course, doing really well. But with all the rain the last couple of days, it is just had some flooding water and different things like that. So the golf course was closed yesterday and today. So again, we're just putting that off till Thursday. And just I want to say thank you. I know the board may talk about this a little bit, for the board participating in the leadership. As I think it's some of the first leadership training we've had in-house that Memory can serve, and I appreciate the board's just being there. It was just, I learned, I've been going to leadership training for years and years, but I can always get nuggets, and I picked up several nuggets that day, and I appreciate staff participation. I think we had over 60 people trained, and that's something I would like to continue going forward. And that's all I have, Mayor, and I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. So we are now ready for our director's reports. Tonight, I am going to start with you, David, and Ken, we will end with you, which is unusual. So, David.
You don't want to go first?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am appreciative, Alan, for the leadership training. As you had told me you had planned to do it, I think a big impetus for you was just you talking to so many employees and you explaining this has got to be done this way, and they had no idea. So it's like, that's what you did that for, and it was a huge plus to help educate them and to provide the lift up to, you're a leader, so let's help you be a leader. So
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you doing that.
And I didn't say, your mother's in our prayers. I know she had some surgery, and I
thank
know
you.
you couldn't
Yeah.
make it, and I didn't know if you wanted to share that, but you
No,
guys
I
have been
appreciate
in our
it.
thoughts and
She's
prayers.
doing great. She's doing great. She'll just be off her feet for a while, but thank you. But Christina, thank you for the report. Revenue's higher. We're doing great. Those are the two things I wrote down, so thank you. Congrats to Renee Hill Ellis. I've known her my whole life on the Municipal Clerk Week. I appreciate her being here to help us tonight. And congrats to Arthur. Wasn't it the 50th Dogwood Festival? 50th. That means I remember the first one. That's an amazing accomplishment, really. And they said it wouldn't last. I'm joking. No, success after success, year after year. So I'm glad you guys have done such an amazing job with it. I will, I know Brian Minnis wasn't here tonight, but I wanted to expound on my high school graduating class at our 44th reunion. Long story, but because of COVID, we couldn't do 40. But Nash Axel, one of my very best friends from elementary on, golf pro in Missouri, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, I read about this. Brian Minnis is helping you guys on your city golf course." He said, "I know him." He said, "You couldn't ask for somebody better to be helping you." And he said, he told Brian, he said, "That is my hometown. You do not mess them up. You make sure it's done right." So it was good to hear like a second opinion from someone who's not living here right now. So it was just kind of a good plug for the direction it's going. I wanted to extend my thoughts with the family on the passing of Susie Gilbert. She's been a legend locally for a lot of people here on just how much of a happy person and full of life that she has been. And I saw Jim earlier, and it's tough. And I hate to hear it, and I give my thoughts for the family. I'll just say, you know, governments make tough decisions that affect citizens every day. And I know of half a dozen people that have been preempted from doing something because what they want to do was turned down by the city because it didn't fit. And I just felt it was disappointing that the citizens of Siloam did not have more of a final say on the affected property tonight. Because we're elected to represent the citizens of Siloam, and the citizens who own this property are not citizens of Siloam. That's nothing against them. It is the fact that if they wish to do this, they should have checked to see what the property use is around the property. So it's just frustrating. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Carol?
Well, I want to thank you for the annexation workshop. Growth is important for our community. If you don't have growth, you die. And we don't have a community anymore, so I appreciate having that workshop. I appreciate all of the comments that are said during our board meeting. Having that communication makes it so much easier to understand what our citizens are thinking, what our board members are thinking, and we all come together. Not everybody likes the outcome of the vote or our answer. But I do appreciate the diligence of the Planning Commission. I know they work very hard to make recommendations to us. And I know that a lot of people have been in prayer for me and my family, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do want to extend congratulations to Renee. Appreciate the years of service that she's given to the city, and she's been a good help to me, I know. Last Friday, we had the picnic for the employees. I I enjoyed it. It's always fun to see everybody get together, and once they're all there together, you realize these are the people that keep this place rolling. And I appreciate our employees. Thank you for the invite to the picnic. We had a good dogwood. I was very thankful for that. And I may not be here at the next meeting. I may be helping to get some twins with their first few days of life. So I'm excited about that, but if I'm not here, it's nothing personal. It's just I'd rather be with my grandbabies. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think that's why I'm sick, was that summer meeting. Some little cute girl kept dunking me in the dunking booth. I won't say her name. I think that's when I'm under weather.
Somebody encouraged it?
It just happened to be that way, right?
Yeah.
Lisa?
I want to say congratulations to Renee. I expected a speech. That's the only disappointing side of that. Hopefully next time we'll get a speech out of her. We could barely get a picture out of her. I agree with Director Smiley. I appreciated the conversation tonight, and that is what these meetings are about. It's not restricting one another from saying what we want to say. It's not keeping the citizens from having a voice. It's about having discussion, and it's not about our feelings. It's not personal. We want, every one of us in this room want what is best for our community, and you get that through this conversation. And so I really appreciate it. I want to say I appreciate Jay Williams. He probably hates that because I ask those hard questions and I get those hard answers, and I appreciate that. That's the type of person I am. If it's an answer that I don't agree with, I'm just going to ask, and you tell me like it is, and I appreciate that. Honesty is the best policy, and I really appreciate that. So, so as we move forward, no, when I'm asking questions, it's not personal. I'm just asking.
Thank you for that.
I appreciate the leadership training. It was really good. I appreciate being around the staff, and it was a good environment, and I appreciate being a part of that. And like Reed said, being part of the employee appreciation dinner or lunch, you take your hats off, you let your hair down, and everybody is just free to be who they are, and it was such an amazing event. And there was a large attendance this year, and I seen more interdepartmental conversations, like departments were combining and visiting, and I had more people come up and visit with me. I just really enjoyed this one, so thank you for putting that on.
It's budget time, getting close.
Huh?
They should move it.
Oh, yeah, budget time. I was wondering why it was this time of year. That's it.
That's it. Betsy?
Yeah, I think y'all covered everything. The summer picnic, it was a great time. Yeah, that was really nice and fun to spend the time with staff and serving them. Congratulations to Renee.
No, she left.
And Dustin Kendall for interim fire chief. I've heard there are a lot of people who are very happy about that. We're lucky to have you. And thank you, Arthur, for the Dogwood Festival and all you do for this community. And I too, sorry. Give my condolences to Susie Gilbert's family. My family's known them forever, back to Tulsa, and I do blame Susie. With 30 years ago, her golden retriever got pregnant, and she decided I should have one of the puppies, and so she is responsible for my golden retriever addiction. So anyway, huge loss to this world.
Thank you, Betsy. Ken?
Well, I didn't know about that, David, until you said that, so that saddened me greatly. I too have known her for a long time, and she was a joy and a hoot, and she will be missed. On the leadership training was exceptional. Just the information that was given and the way it was given, I think, was amazing. And so I'd like to see more. I mean, that was great. And then also the activities Friday, I could not stay for your part of the show. I wish I had. I'm sure somebody got it on video, so if you're listening, I want to see it. And that's all I have. I move that we adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.